Correct.
A long time. Can you, I mean, just for my own information, just give me, like, on your panic button list of what we need to get done? You know, like you mentioned, I just want to know, like, of the teaser.
The top of the list, as far as, you know, no.
I mean, you don't.
Yeah, what I'm concerned about is, honestly, and I give myself ulcers for this, I worry about the DCGS mandatory training that has to be complied with, because they literally have the power and ability to decertify us, come here, padlock the doors. It's happened to other PDs in the state.
And how, who, is it the whole department?
Yes.
So every employee has to be trained?
Yes. And also,
certain criteria.
Yeah, there's certain levels depending on what they...
Right. There's like implicit bias training is one. That is supposed to be everybody. And,
Implicit bias is 4 hours, right?
No, it's an 8 hour.
They're doing 8 hour course.
And we don't have our own, unfortunately, we don't have an instructor that's an implicit bias training instructor. So if we did have to get that and not go to...
I could do that.
Huh?
I could do that.
We're going to talk afterwards. So,
You saved us $400.
Yeah, but you know, the mandatory training that we need to keep in certification or before we're audited.
Those are the things that I'm like, I don't want somebody putting a lock on the door that you can't get into.
Right.
What is NPTC or
Municipal Police Training Council.
No, I know what it is.
Oh.
It's a certified instructor.
Yeah.
What is there in DCJS's criteria? How many hours per year is mandatory? It's 40 hours, correct?
Yes.
So 40 hours at 20 officers,
It's 800
20
hours.
staff is 800
I
hours.
just said that, 800 hours.
So we're talking 576. Your request is for 1,144. Can we do this on the 800 hours?
No.
That is cost savings
I
around the clock.
no, I understand that. Still, besides the 2 days of the range,
That's 40 hours.
Right.
24 hours and 16 is 40 hours. If it's 20 hours, it's 800 hours. We're at 576.
Yep.
right?
You're saying can we try to complete this year
800 hours.
with 800 hours?
Yep.
I feel that we could.
I respectfully disagree. You also have to take into consideration the old officers coming up now that we trained 4 years ago on the breathalyzer, and they have to recertify. They have to go back. That's another day class.
That's in the FTO training. That's down here. You're on the wall.
No. That's not field training. That's for new cops that are being hired as a 3-day program. We're talking about older cops that are already certified. They have to recertify in certain things. The breathalyzer is just one example.
Radar's once you're done radar.
Radar is just it's good unless you're gonna unless you have officers. The other thing we're seeing with that
FTO is lifetime too.
you have officers like myself. You know, I was trained under the standard radar, and now things are going to LiDAR. So
Do we have LiDAR in the cars?
no, but they're coming because Stop DOE is the one that's giving us the equipment. We're on a waiting list to get this stuff.
The county gives us the equipment.
I totally understand that. I think we talked about this in the past, that it's great to get the equipment. It's great to get the grants. It's great to get the most modern technology that we can possibly get. But the reality is that triggers cost also. And I'm not saying to diminish the job that you're doing or the job that you want to achieve. But the reality is, if we can't afford the high price stuff and all this futuristic stuff, and again, I totally appreciate that, then I think we have to utilize what we have. We have to use the tools that we can afford.
But if they outdate our equipment, that's just the point. We can't use it.
We can't really. I mean, to me, we really cannot insure for every possible case scenario that's coming down the road. There's things that I've seen in all budgets, and as we'll talk about, that we funded and we didn't even utilize, or we didn't go forth, but yet we still budgeted that. So quite honestly, an increase of almost $400,000 in this entire budget, I want to look at it realistically. I want to give you what you need, but I don't want to. You don't want to levy.
So, for example, if they outdate our radar units, then we won't be able to do traffic enforcement. I mean, if the town's good with that, then
Just
I understand what you're.
you know what I'm saying? Like,
I do understand what you're saying, that you're not going to be able to do that. I don't feel that. I would never allow that to happen.
But what it is everything is subject to change.
Understood.
We don't have control over that change.
Understood.
And it's either you're doing it or you're not doing it. So just something to consider. I mean, that's.
Let me ask you this. In a perfect world, 1,144 hours gets, applied. in the ensuing years, does it stay at 1,144? It has to drop off
No, it would drop
because
down.
your certifications have to drop off.
They would, in the fact that once
So in a perfect world, so that's
right. So for example, like this year going forward, let's say 2025. You know, I get my evidence technician in there, 40 hours, right? All the members of the PD existing at that time in place, 20 hours. We get the implicit bias training done. There's other trainings that have to be done. Backlog. You get all that, you would start to taper off, and then you'd have, unless DCGS throws a curveball at us, which they always do. Unfortunately, DCGS, when they come out with these mandates, it's in December, right before Christmas.
So this is basically what I'm asking. What you're saying is what I'm asking for, right? Like we need to find that. I have to do CE. I know every 2 years. It's actually the way I do it now. Is every year I'm in some type of CE. It just matters which one I'm in. So for your guys, your staff is where does that recertification hit, and what is it going to cost the taxpayers in the town going forward? It's not going to be 1144. So what is it? That's
There's only a few officers. Now it's all.
No, I understand,
Right there.
but we need to-
It might be
that-
40
we need to
officers next
quantify
year. It
that.
might be 5 officers next year.
right.
right?
Because
I mean,
we
it's
change
just a basic
officers.
because you can somewhat. I'm not defending, but you can justify that if you wanted to. But you also have to then subordinate it with it drops off 500 hours, 600 hours, right? I'm just saying. I don't know, but
It's going to drop because you're not going to be training that many officers every year.
well, that's kind of what I'm getting at. Is that what are the ones that we need to get out of the way right away,
Right.
and get this up to snuff.
I don't see the end result of the training for what we've spent up to this point. But I do see that for the 2024 budget was $17,510, and that was based on 576 hours of training. And the request is for 35,464 hours, and that's at the 1,144 hours. If you have the 20 guys and you have the 40 hours, I would feel much more comfortable if we took that 576 and moved it to 800 hours and see where we stand. To get the mandates in and make the adjustments accordingly. I totally understand and appreciate what you're saying, but again, it's the dollars. You know, that's quite a substantial jump. And that's just my thoughts.
Now, what happens, just say for whatever reason they come up a few hours short on training or whatever, can money be moved for them to take more
If it's
training?
mandatory and it has to be done, then we have to find the money. We'll have to move money around.
And then conversely, out of 800, what do you get done with 800? That's another way to
Well,
look at it.
there's 20 individuals. And to be
No, I'm
fair,
just saying, like-
to be fair, totally fair, let me throw another wrench in the works. To be totally fair, that is 20 stagnant or permanent employees with nobody leaving and nobody coming.
Right.
So if we end up having 26, then that number's going to change.
Sure.
So let's just say we have 26.
That'd be 24,312 at the rate.
Well, we won't look at the numbers. I mean, it is a significant savings.
Yes.
But if we have, just say, 26, and we'll just do this. So we're talking, that's 1,040, so we're still saving significantly with an additional 6 people. We think we have 5, say 25. I mean, there's no telling how much of a transition we're going to have. And to be fair, how many staff members do we have right now? 16, 17?
17, not counting all of us.
17.
And just so that you know, with the police academy now, well, let's talk before. Guys used to come out fully trained, radar, everything. Now everything's a la carte. Meaning that as soon as they step out of the academy, the training falls on us.
And a lot of times they come out of the academy after phase 1, and we're finishing up on phase 2. So that being said, in the past, for many, many years, basically what we're doing is sponsoring somebody for the phase 2, and we're taking over the responsibility of sending them through phase 2. And I know that it's hard to get employees at every level, and especially in the profession that you're in. It's extremely hard, but we never require somebody after phase 2 to stay for 16 months or 24 months. We never have that requirement. We have never done that. I don't know why we don't do that, but that's bad investment.
The only investment I would say we save on that supervisor is first of all, they're only getting paid state minimum wage.
Understood.
For that 160 hours while they're getting trained, which helps drastically. And they also, if they don't stay the year, they don't get reimbursed any monies for the money they lay out to get hired here.
And then they get a retro after they...
After 1 year, we will reimburse them up to $1,000 of equipment that's required to have that we won't purchase.
But once they're out of phase 2, they go to a different pay scale.
Once they complete and they're signed off. Now, it might not be the 160 hours. If one of the FTOs says, he needs some more training, goes to the chief or myself, and we sit down, myself and the chief, we evaluate what they're looking at. We say, we got to keep him on for another 60 days, whatever, 80 hours, whatever they work.
Okay.
So that, again, once you're still under that umbrella of field training or in the training fees, your state minimum wage. And once you're signed off on it, then it automatically changes. I notified Jen and they change the pay scale.
And also, just because you've completed phase 2, you're not a certified police officer until you complete the field training part of it. And then that document gets sent up to DCJS, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
And then they get their certification as police officer.
Go ahead, Rick. Sorry.
The other thing is probably an important thing. Loosely, and it's not worded so well in the PVA contract, it does have a clause that states if they leave for a year, there's some restitution that they have to pay. But it's worded in such a way that it's difficult to enforce. But there are a lot of law enforcement agencies in Orange County and Ulster County that are holding people to that standard. And if they jump ship, go to a higher paying agency or whatever, they are seeking at least some of the funds. So that's become a common practice maybe the last 5 to 10 years. Maybe that's something that we could look into because, like the town supervisor said, we seem to be, putting them on the runway and we lose them right when the plane can fly.
We're doing all the training and they're leaving.
Take all the risk on, all the investment.
What were your
Well, that's even like the vest. The vests are made for you.
Yeah, they're custom fitted.
Yeah.
But once they leave, what happens to it?
They either buy it
Target practice.
or well,
What we've done, honestly, I've been really a cheap here.
Well, we're going to get to that. We're going to get to the best now. Let's stick right here.
Okay, right, yes.
So the reality is, if we move it to 800, we're increasing it by 224 hours. Okay, if we move it to, obviously 1144, the request, we're going to increase that by 568 hours. So,
If we meet in the middle, it's like 900 hours.
well, in the middle or not, I still feel like we can, and this is just me. I mean, if that's collectively what these folks want to do, or altogether we want to do, raise it higher than 800. I just feel like we should be looking at it, and I don't want to say realistically because our perception or my perception is going to be different than you guys. You guys are doing it. So I am looking for cost savings is what I'm looking for.
I look at it as both, right? We get them the cost savings, but we also give them the tools to get at least going. And then I'm looking into the following calendar year. You can plan better. You can.
So what is your guys' desire? What is your desire?
I mean, when I said before, the 8, as long as, if needed, they can get the money
I
to
would agree with
continue
that.
on, I'm fine with that.
I would agree.
What's your opinion?
So we don't shortchange them.
I feel like the 800 is like bare minimum.
So what are you feeling?
I was thinking like mean in the middle, like 975, 950.
What do you feel?
I feel that Mr. Fazio's is probably our best option because it gives them the 8. Sergeant Rafferty can allocate the training and the prioritization, how we or they needs to prioritize the training. And then with Councilman Fazio's idea, it opens the door to when Sergeant Rafferty says, hey, we need this, that, and a third, we can adjust it a la carte. It could be 1,000, and we locked them in at 975, you know?
Okay, so to be fair, 888.
Correct.
You're saying 975. Is there any compromise between the 8 and 975? So we have 8, we have 975. Even if I'm just going to suggest 900. And that's still a savings, but that still is above and beyond. And keep in mind that you have people coming, you have people going. The possibility is there. I prefer to hire veteran officers and not officers that come out of the academy, and not to diminish their quality or their, experience.
With the bigger savings.
Yeah, the bigger savings, and we've been looking, but today's now and age, today's environment, veteran cops have seen what's going on, and they don't want the job.
And again,
They want to enjoy their
if we
retirement.
increase it to 875.
Well, then if you do it to 875, then you have to take his suggestion off the table and lock it at 875, right? Because then what's the point?
Well, the training is not really ever a law, because if something comes down that's mandatory, you have to do it. We got
That's
to
what
go somewhere.
That's why I feel like the 800 monetarily saves us on the budget if they don't use it, right? And then if they have mandatory something that comes down from New York State or
Sometimes we come back to the board,
DCJS
we
that
request
comes
it,
down,
increase it.
we can increase it. But I think if we, from a line item perspective, it would monetarily save us on the budget. And then if we have to adjust it, we can.
I mean, because mandatory is mandatory.
I think it's a very fair.
We're going to stand the training is needed.
Yeah,
Let's look at
it's a
numbers somewhere.
static number.
If we have to come back for training hours, we can
static
do
with
that.
arbitrary movement, but it has to be subordinated with mandatory this, mandatory that. But I'm asking you is that I think we need to prioritize the punch list of stuff to do. I just really want to use that 800 very efficiently. I know you did the math and it's perfect for training and all that other stuff, but we neglected it. We need to get it up to
How
snuff.
many hours are you calculating, Dean?
And I just want the board to realize too,
That's an increase of 224 hours at 800.
I think that's very fair.
and just regards to 2024, we've been able to save a lot of money by going sideways, making relationships with Town of Lloyd and Town of Shawang we didn't have before. We had officers do taser training. We had part of the tour they just run down really quick. We have to keep an officer on here to get certified. So we're really working hard behind the scenes to diminish any costs. We're always looking to partner with somebody new if we have to return the favor. We're trying to get guys that are instructors and have those certifications so we can do it in-house, so we wouldn't even add to that line item. It's just that we're a point in time, unfortunately, like I said, the retired cop with certifications is a unicorn in today's age. We're lucky that we have Sergeant Ross and Sergeant Arreston. Those are two unicorns we got from the city of Newburgh. So unfortunately, just
all right, so let me say this then. Under the training, I'll open up for a motion to increase that from 576 to. Actually, I'll even make that motion. Okay. I'll make the motion to go from 576 hours to 800 hours for the training purposes.
With the opening of mandatory training adjustment.
If needed, we have to come back to the board. We run some
Yeah.
on that line item.
Yeah, for mandatory.
second that.
If we have to,
Yeah.
then we'll revisit that and come back for the adjustment.
Are you times it out on the average or what average you try that on that supervisor?
I'm not even going to come up with an end result on that.
We don't want
just
to
worrying about the hours. The only thing that I could do is to do it on the average hours that are now.
Let me add you the numbers. That was 30.
17,517 or
For the last one.
17,510.
You divide that by what it is, and that's like $30.63.
So I'm sorry. What do we do with 800 off of what average?
Okay, so what happens if you look over to the 24 budget line?
Yeah.
The 24 budget line, we currently have 576 hours. Take your 17,510 and divide it by 576.
$30.39.
And now take your
Times out by 800.
39 cents by 800.
24,319.
24,319.
24.4.
Nice.
Right. So that will change.
Like almost $11,000 savings.
Yeah, I had 10 written down.
Figure what that is exactly. So it's 144.56.
What are you doing at the moment?
So if you look across the line, your training hours, 576 hours.
Yeah.
Okay, at 576 hours, that gives the 2024 budget of $17,510. So divide those 576 hours into that 17,510. That's going to come up to an hourly rate.
32.89.
3039. So I come up with
30.39.
Yeah.
So,
Do the
if you look at the top, there's an average salary for patrol.
30.
it's 3040.
Yeah, 30.4.
Like if you break it right down to penny, it's 3039.
Okay.
So do the math onto it so we get this right.
Yep.
So we're going to take that 17,510.
Yep.
Divide 576 into that, come up with the hourly rate.
30.39 or 30.4 is Tiffany.
Okay, so 30.4.
Yeah.
And now you're going to times that by 800. And give me a total number.
24,320. I agree with John.
So we're going to round that off to 320.
And then the difference between that.
The difference between that is what?
11,326 is the difference.
Okay, so 11,326 you got?
Yes, sir.
So hold that, and that's rating change. When we go through the items that we can look at, then we'll add them up, and that gets deducted from the requested.
Understood. Yeah.
Okay. So the next thing we can look at is the late calls / overtime. That's a new line, and that's we never had that before, and that's at proposed hourly salary, $32,000. Where did that come from?
In the past, late calls or overtime or overscheduled had never been submitted in the budget. It would be as if you're in an ideal world where you're in a factory where you go 8 to 4, 4 o'clock you punch out. If you work 4 to 12, you punch out. Unfortunately, the reality of the police work we're in, and also when we have maybe only one unit on in the daytime, a lot of calls come on in the daytime or in the afternoon, and officers are frequently overscheduled at the end of the tour. The other thing that's occurred this year that this number has come up significantly is the court system has now gone from a local arraignment where we would come into Plattekill or a neighboring town court to arraign the person to this thing called CAP court. CAP stands for...
That's up in Ulster County, and you have
Central
another
Arraignment
line
line for
for that, and a complete different line.
Oh, okay, we thought, yeah,
Arbitrarily, $32,000 that we never had there before, and I don't understand that $32,000.
A lot of that also is the fact that the PBA is now holding us on the fact that we used to use, if you recall, we have to have 2 guys per contract, minimum 2 guys on contract for the C line. So now we used to use the new guys out of the academy, figuring it was a person. According to the contract, we can't do that. So now we're running, when these guys are getting trained.
Okay, so why are we developing a new line to compensate for that, and it's
Right.
not covered under the C line?
Because we don't know when they're working. It's this whole separate. We don't know. If I schedule, say, I'm scheduling Officer A with a training on an FTO recruit, I have to put another Officer A on. So now I have 3 guys that he has to ride with this guy. We used to count that as one.
So now keep in mind what the conversation we just had earlier. So you have 2 guys that are on that are full-time for lack of better words,
right.
they're full-time officers. Yes, we're only paying minimum wage, but now we're taking somebody who's in phase 2 and we're adding a third body, but we're only counting for 2.
Correct.
So again, we're talking about the late calls, $32,000 that we've never had before. And if we're talking about cap court, I don't know how long we're going to be able to sustain cap court, whether that's going to work or it's going to come back here.
Right, but-
I have no idea, but $32,000 is $32,000.
Right, we're going back. Really, the 32,000 is for unscheduled hours. Late calls. They
But we don't have that provision when you
No, there's never-
budget a C line. You
Never,
make a
no,
line with-
that is not a provision. It has never been a provision. When I dissected this and I took this apart, that was one of the things that shocked me. It was never included or accounted for. Police work is not, like I said, clean, punch in, punch out. It's, end of tour arrests, medicals, having to go to the hospital, across the river, different things. So, this is 7 days a week, 2 shifts, the morning shift, the evening shift. If you have 3 officers, which we had an arrest recently where all 3 had to go because they had to go over with a violent psychiatric patient over to Mid-Hudson Regional. So, it does add up. It does add up. That figure is fairly accurate based on the 2024 and 2023 sets, And then also I'd like to just bear in mind, too, that due to personnel shortages, we didn't carry a lot of shifts this year. There were a lot of shifts left vacant. So that number is a very fine, number based on, pre-COVID numbers. We haven't been running as many patrols due to lack of personnel. So it's a very realistic number. We're hoping in 25 with 5 or 6 coming out probably next month from phase 2 that we're going to have a full complement of officers. So
But again, and when you're saying they're coming out after phase 2,
Yes.
and we're still going to be required to do the training and so forth.
yeah, that's a different line, different
No,
area.
I totally get
And
it.
also after 10 hours, it's time and a half if they lay over.
Yeah.
But we've never had this $32,000.
Where was it in the past?
It wasn't.
Yeah, so where did you? Didn't exist. It was just let's say a prayer and hope that everybody goes home at 4 o'clock on the dot at midnight.
And this is
And I feel like
So there was no overtime in
we
the
should
They
be
didn't calculate for it.
not for these specific things. That's not what they're looking for. This is kind of different. This is a brand new line that never existed before. So we're talking $32,000, and where were the shortfalls
What,
that we utilized the money from other budget lines?
I was going to say, where did you get it?
well, that's just it. I mean,
Okay,
we kept saying,
where did you try to get
where we're going to get the money from?
Yeah.
We can't stop what's going on. In other words, if there's a layover, first of all, let's understand something. If an officer's laying over, he just can't say, I'm laying over. It has to be approved by a supervisor. It has to be justified. Some things, whether it's a domestic, whether it's a patient being transported to mental health across the river, whether it's somebody that has to be arraigned in cap court, we can't control that. You can approve it or disapprove it, but it's always going to come back.
No, I understand that, but where in the past we've had we've had these other stuff, but where did you pay the guys from? How did you didn't just say, hey, I got you. Like where did
Capper is new.
Okay, so that comes from the
That's
county.
brand new, yes.
Yeah, we're just talking about overtime.
And that's in its infancy.
So what is the old? Yeah, what is it?
I'm not sure. I don't have an answer.
Okay, Debbie?
Yeah, I wouldn't actually in your OT hours because you actually have court and cap court, another line.
Down about 5 or 6 lines.
Yeah, there's 2 different lines.
So what I'm trying to just justify in my mind is I understand this new line being developed at $32,000, and we haven't had this in the past. I feel like we should either do away with this line or cut it significantly.
So what would you suggest? Where do we get the money from? And what line?
Well, it's kind of a replication of service. Well, if you look down on that cap court and cap court, you're talking, $38,500, and the budget was $4,742 in 2024, and that's a $33,758 difference right there. So we're talking quite a substantial $65,000, $66,000, $67,000 increase on those 2 lines alone that we never had before. That's a lot of money.
70. Well, just jumping down to the bottom line, court, let's just say regular court, forget the cap court. Unlike the past, prior to Chief Lopez, officers were pushed to do a lot of activity. Now these guys are out there, and the stats show it from the monthly report. They're writing a lot of tickets. They're making a lot more arrests. There's a much more significant presence. The PBA contract right now, if they have traffic court and they come in on their day, it's not married to the tour they're on. They get 4 hours, a time and a half just for that. So like I said, we have a tremendous amount uptick in activity, and there's going to be more court appearances for these officers. So we budgeted for 4,000 last year.
And a lot of those court appearances are through subpoenas, which we can't, that's a court order.
And then the other reason that cap/court thing is high is this new process called ERPO. It means Extreme Risk Protection Order. This is where, by law, a police officer could get a report of someone maybe that's psychologically unsound. We can go there, and if they have a firearm, we're allowed to seize it. And it's a civil process. We have to file for it in Supreme Court, not at the local court level. You have to go to the county court, file the index, then you go to the county building, file the index, then go to the Supreme Court, and then you have to come back. And
So when you're making that arrest, you're making that under an MHL.
correct. It could be
So when you guys, again, I'm not familiar with the process of how Plattekill PD does this, but I was under the understanding that the sheriff's department actually did the MHL arrest and did the convictions. And
No.
They can, but they can also don't have to.
yeah, but I've understood in the past that was common practice in the past.
Well, we just got denied one until we called back and
Make
said,
some phone
listen,
calls.
we're in a spot.
Yeah, but what I just like to caution you. Let's say we get to the scene and the sheriff did take the ball and run with it. In many instances, they may come back. The officer who filed for that petition cannot serve that petition, so a second officer has to go. And then when the court date appears, not only it'll be the officer who filed the petition, the officer who served it, anybody who's on the scene, and it becomes a civil mini trial in Supreme Court. So we're talking about the process of serving it, of getting it done, going up to the Supreme Court, and then later on, a couple of weeks later, coming back in, and it's two officers coming in to testify. So I'm basing this also on next door, town of Shawangam. I've had 8 of them this year, just like that, and so a lot more personnel winds up going to court, and that's where I broadcast a lot of these figures from. Was the unexpected court.
So let's do this in all fairness. Let's go back up to the late calls / overtime. Yeah. Is there any desire by the board to cut that $32,000?
The only question I really have, and it's like I always equate stuff to man hours, like that 32,000. What would you say that is roughly in man hours? What would it cover?
At time and a half, it's about 702 hours.
I'm going to say 700. Yeah. 700 hours.
That's quite a substantial amount. So would it be fair to say to cut that 32 to 12?
That's about 13 hours a week. And I get slips when I do payroll. I have slips. This guy stayed 2 hours. This guy stayed an hour. So I would say, without a doubt, we're averaging, somewhere around that. Not every officer. If 2 officers stay, they both stay, and they're there till 2 o'clock in the morning.
But in all fairness, those slips that you get for 1 hour or 2 hours, we've been getting them all along, and we've been funding them through that line.
The other chief was making up as a wage.
So the thing is, this is something new that we're developing.
Right.
And that's just my suggestion.
That's because the standards in the department have changed under the direction of myself and
100%.
Under myself and the chief have changed a lot of direction of what the officers before they kind of weren't fulfilling their obligations of what we feel as police officers should be doing. So under that realm, now there's that's why you've seen some changes in the department. People coming and saying, "I don't want to work here," because people thought it was as the chief would say, riding the monorail around Disney and just getting a paycheck. Now you're here to give the taxpayers what they deserve. You're paying for a service.
Right,
I agree with you.
Again, another line we can talk about all night. Is there any desire by the board to cut any of those out, the hours, or excuse me, not the hours, but that money, $32,000?
Yeah, I mean, yes is the answer, but I would just like to know what have we paid overtime in the past? What do we pay Like, what do we pay for overtime?
Are you guys saying where was that funding source from?
Or just what was the bottom line? Like, what do we spend in overtime last year? In this,
So let me just ask you to be fair. So when we do the budgeting, we budget for X amount of officers at an average salary across the board. And again, admittingly, 17 officers, 17 staff members we have, and I would assume that you're budgeting it on 20. That's probably
Yes,
20, or actually
yes.
even more, 22.
My number is usually 20.
Yeah. So your numbers always give you a buffer. So when you're doing that, that's where your money comes from. Not by over budgeting, but by budgeting a percentage.
No, I understand that.
Like in a day where 4 guys are supposed to work,
Right.
and only 3 work. So you get a little extra this, and you try to work it out that way.
buy a bunch of salt and have a mild winter.
But also, like, the number may appear skewed. Let me just be clear. I went back to 20, 21, 22, and 23. And you have to take into consideration, like, during COVID, obviously, a lot of arrests were down. A lot of law enforcement contacts were down. Coming out of it, 24, we were woefully undermanned as an agency. Now it looks like heading into 25, we're going to be, like I said, the ship full, enough officers we're supposed to have. But even in 24, we missed a lot of tours. If you take the average of where we're at right now, it is projecting that number, and it's a pretty accurate number. So, like I said, we could operate on what you're suggesting, but we'd rather err on the side of caution instead of surprising you with an unexpected bill down the road later in the year.
Understood. I mean, my number in my head was 12,000.
12, but
And again, what is the board's desire? I'm just one person.
I just don't understand the total amount of overtime. And then I guess my other concern is the number of shifts that we don't have covered. So it's like this contango of we're paying guys to work overtime.
But these 5 people on, we're going to put on. That's going to cover our shifts.
And then the overtime goes away.
But in all fairness, we don't know that.
Well,
We can't see
right,
anything.
It's all a guess.
Because this is already happened.
But it's not actual.
That's why this budget's so hard.
Yeah,
I understand.
It's the unpredictable nature of the week. It's not the overtime would go away. It's like if 5 days in a row we have like an ongoing fight spills over from the school, and now we have officers hold over the day to our arrest. So it's like it's really hard to predict. But I'm only going on that figure where I created it, based on 4 or 5 years ago. What the average of when we had full complement of officers in every tour. So that's where it comes
Well,
from.
and again, I mean, just in my mind, we've never had this before.
Hitting on all cylinders.
It's something new, and something that I think we need to step into.
Okay.
And again, I mean, I will be even willing to make that as a motion that we fund that line at $12,000 for this year. So the motion on the floor to fund that line by $12,000.
I'll second that.
The motion on the floor with a second. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? So carried. So let's do that. 12.
Right at the room, right? Chicken scratch.
That's why you got to rely on Tiffany to give you a copy of everything when it's done. You got numbers all over the paper, right?
False leadership.
She's very good at what she's done. So,
Okay. The next one we can look at, back to that special events, the 200 hours, increasing that to the 536 hours. What's your feeling on that, John? I will tell you this, our special events as a whole have not really changed, but the increased presence is
That's the
definitely.
difference.
you said
Where they
fireworks,
raise-
there was how
Chief
many?
explained it pretty well before.
And then what was the next heaviest one?
Memorial Day Parade. I think we had 12 at the Memorial Day Parade. I don't know, Marion probably tell us you got a picture of us.
We're also part of that increase. Part of that increase. Some of the numbers there. We like to do National Night Out. I've been doing it next door. I had 2 of our officers came down this year just to see how we run it in Shawham and also to participate with the sheriffs and state police. Walkill in general is one of the same community. All our kids from our town of Plattekill go to school over there. They know us. So, but we'd like to bring that event to
So
Plattekill.
totally understood. So let me ask you a question here. That was Shawangos National Night Out. How many staff members from Plattekill went to that were on the payroll that night?
Only 2, but there was 7 of us there.
There was 2 that were on the payroll for that night.
Yes.
So we can anticipate that 2 on the payroll from Shawangos will be over here.
Well, let me just clarify. In Shawham, they made it a PBA event, so it's actually done by the PBA. Over here, we make it a department event. I don't know. I don't have the power of the PBA to compel them to do whatever, but we would like at least, by whatever means, to get that National Night Out started, or maybe start small.
100% so. I mean, the last 2 years, we really should have.
We're not going to use National Night Out as National Night Out because I think that's a franchise you got to pay into, isn't it?
Yeah, it depends.
To use that name, so we would call it whatever. We'll call
Well,
it a name.
we can do our own thing.
Right.
We've had music at the park for the last 4 years, and we could have done something there, and we haven't taken the opportunity.
Right, but this is just a small amount of those hours. Let's say the bare minimum was like 2 officers. You have 2 officers on patrol, 2 officers to the event for the park anyway. It kind of, it falls into a special event thing. And I'm not saying they're going to be there for 8 hours, both of them. Maybe it might just be 4 or 5, But I mean, it's going forward with Chief Lopez's plan and desire to advance the state.
So let me just say this: just looking at this, the 200 hours right now, the hours worked for 2024, they end up coming up to $8,664. Okay, so the increase we want to go to 536 hours, and the increase is up to $28,000. So at that 200 hours, if we increase the 200 hours, I don't have a problem with increasing the 200 hours, but I think it's unrealistic to go more than 2.5 times or more than 2.
You're saying 400 hours?
I would feel better about the 400. Yeah.
I'll make a motion to move it to 400 hours.
So is that 12,160, sir?
Well, let's do the motions first. So we have a motion on the table here for the special events to increase the hours from 200 to 400. And we have a second. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? So carried. Okay, so that at the 400 hours, now we can do the math. So, well... That's figured a time and a half, right?
40-32, right?
43.32.
I'm sorry, 43.32. Can you come up with 17,328? Is that what you got?
400 hours.
17,328.
17,328. So, 17,328. Okay, we're going to minus that from the 28,000.
$10,672.
Yep. And that is going to be for special events. Okay. So, training hours. What did we decide we were doing for training hours?
But there was still about 320.
Yes. I'm sorry.
Training, yeah,
We did. We did that.
Yep.
What was your number on that?
24
hours?
320. We changed it to
What did I write?
total.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
24,319.
Yes.
I gotcha.
800 hours.
Yeah, I gotcha.
Okay, so Cap Court is $38,500. We've utilized, the budget for 24 was $4,742. This is an increase of $33,758. So the request is $38,500. And I am also going to say that needs, in my opinion, to be cut back substantially as well.
I if I may, as long as the board knows they come up with a figure, knowingly that may change again, as we discussed earlier. It's something that is something we really have no control over.
Understood.
Yes.
So it's kind of whatever the county dictates to us what's happening. I mean, we need a couple dollars extra that we have in there. If we can come up with a figure now, with the understanding that we may have to come back to the board
Yes.
and ask for something more on that, depending on how this whole thing plays out.
I do feel like that actually is something that is very much in motion. When this was first introduced, it was introduced by Ulster County, and it was presumably a great idea, and it was done and financed through a grant. That grant is eventually going to run out, I believe, at the end of this year, and then we're going to be looking at 26, complete different numbers here. So that being said, I do understand the obligations that we have with CapCorp. That 4742, that was a realistic number, and in keeping in mind that CapCorp was actually designed to save the community's money, all the townships in Ulster County. I don't know that it's really done that.
They've run into hiccups because it's in the infancy stages. The sheriff came out at the Chiefs Association meeting, said that this would happen, and it's a topic of heated discussions as we speak. Because it's costing the agencies, babysitting prisoners.
Understood. And then it takes, keeping in mind, CapCorp is great to be able to go and get the arraignments done and everything else, but ineffectively what it does is it takes our two people that are on shift out of our community for 4, 6, or even sometimes 8 hours, depending on what the criteria is and how loaded the court is. So that being said, I totally appreciate and understand that. But I do believe that we need to substantially cut that to 8,500. And I don't believe that we should do completely away with it, but we were looking at 4742 for the year of 2024. And quite honestly, I have not heard any discussion that we underfunded that to this point. And I would be comfortable going to 10,000.
As long as we all understand that may change as the year goes on.
Well, it's kind of a misrepresented thing to say court/cap because there's really traffic court should be its own line, and we have officers more frequently in traffic court again because we have more activity. We have stop DUI now. We issue a lot of tickets. Starting in spring 25, we're also going to get the STEP program back where we have seatbelts, distracted driver, the cell phone, all that stuff, and that's going to result in more court appearances. So 4,000.
Understood. So
4,000.
a lot of that that you're talking to also is going to be coming back with grants very much like the DWI stuff, DWI thing. They have the incentive for the, I'm anticipating,
But
I'm not saying they are, I'm anticipating it's going to come back.
Like you said earlier, they come with the cost of, the officer has to go to court at some point. So 4,000 that we had there, that barely covered traffic court appearances. Again, I said I'd be comfortable with 1,000, and when I threw the number out, we're negotiating here, but I did not make a motion. So the real number in my mind actually would be 12,000. So.
That's what I was going to say.
Yeah, I don't know.
I just tripled. I tripled their number.
Yeah, I think 12,000 is.
12 is.
I knew I was going to get hard.
If you triple it, it's 14. But 12 is fine.
Close to 15.
So again, I'll make a motion.
Well, yeah, right. That's fine. As long as we got money to work with to start. That's the bottom line.
Sure.
Because we don't know. It's such a new program. We don't know where it's going to go. We know it's expensive when it happens. Let's just hope we can blow
I
it
will
off as
make
much
a
as we
motion
can.
that we do the court/cap, that we move that to $12,000.
I will second it.
And a motion on the floor with a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So carried. I hear you, Steve. No room to write.
I have nothing. Yeah, I don't know where I'm going to get this bottom line from.
So, let's say this. Trust is 385. 26,500. Okay, the FTO training. Why is this broke out this time when we didn't have that in the past as well? The FTO training.
Well, this time we're looking at bringing on 5 officers, all FTOs. Well, that's 160 hours each one.
Okay, so stupid question. Do we have enough FTOs to train?
Well, we don't. They got to be scheduled first of all.
Understood.
So I think we have how many FTOs now? We have Sergeant Raffy's an FTO,
Reston, Sergeant Vasta,
Officer Benjamin,
Officer Benjamin.
Detective Wolford.
and Wolfer. So there's
Okay, so we do have a substantial.
we have 5. Now, with that being said, this again per contract, PVA contract, every time that officer performs the duties of an FTO, he gets paid extra as while he's training that person. That's in the PVA contract. But that's all included in that money there. It's all included.
So the 1,600 hours and the proposed hourly, the proposed request for 25 is $22,400. Totally understand it, and I do feel that there's room here as well. In general, what do you think?
That's based on
Go ahead, based on.
hiring 10. That's where I get that figure from. So it's 10. They have 160 hours of minimum training. I think we're hiring 6 in November, December. So it seems like
request.
Yeah.
Request to hire 6.
Yes, sir. I'm basing it based on last year's hiring. You know, it's about we're averaging our new people at 10 out of the academy every year. It's the days of a good old retired cop coming in looking to do a few more days part time and helping out. They're in the past, so 10 is a very conservative number. And again, that's the minimum mandated DCJS training hours is 160. So 10 times 160. That's
How
where
did we
we're
pay
at.
for this before, though? How did we pay for this before? This came out of the line when the shifts were in the percentage.
I think it was past practice sometimes when you had the evening shift to be a certified officer and a new guy, which is actually against the PVA contract. You have to have 2 full certified duty zones. So I think it was paid out of the patrol line in the past, but that's something we can no longer do as they are effectively a third person. But remember, like Deputy Chief Smith said, they're paid at a minimum New York State rate during that time. So it's 16, but that's subject to change if the PVA is successful in their contract in this year, which will be retro.
So I guess my only apprehension is just retention.
Yes.
So you hire 10. How long do we hang on to them for?
I have no idea.
If we're lucky, a year, some of them.
See what I mean?
Well, they got to get.
The math doesn't math on that.
They're definitely staying. The only thing I can guarantee they're staying for is they're staying until they get
Until they get out of probation. Yeah, until they go somewhere
They need
else.
that certificate
Right.
to move on. Without
I
their
wish there was
certificate,
some
they
way,
can't
like you
nowhere.
said earlier, Dean, I wish there was some way where we could protect your investment a little bit or have them want to stay on longer.
It's been brought up before on contract negotiations to try to put something in there to give us a minimum of a couple of years, 2 years, 3 years. But then again, what's the penalty? As we discussed, Supervisor, in many conversations we've had, what's the penalty that we can apply to somebody who says, oh, listen, I got a full-time job, I'm part-time here, I just got offered a $100,000 job over in town of Poughkeepsie.
Right. Well, I mean, I'm not a municipal attorney or a labor attorney.
But also it's a
How
challenge.
schools
that Deputy
do
Chief
that
said.
with education.
We're right on the border of Orange County. Man, you hop over the Orange County line and it's like...
And it's a whole new world.
They'll laugh at my sergeant pay, and I'm like, and they're like, I'm just an officer, and you're that. And
Dutchess County Fire,
Right, it's-
Poughkeepsie is $125,000.
Yeah.
The incentive is to go use it. I mean, that's what it is right now. It's an incentive.
And they love hiring our people because they're well trained.
Yeah, understood. So the reality is, we don't have the revenue streams that other communities have either. So we really can't compare apples to apples. And
You want to make a motion that we can try to work with, Supervisor?
so
What's that?
I like donated time, but I know that's so.
Christmas time.
FBO training. We're looking at something very new. The request is 1,600 hours, and I'm going to go out on a limb and say 800 hours.
Cut that in half.
Yeah. What do you guys feel?
I was going to go up to 5 coming out of the academy, so that works out with the 8.
to 11.
And I'm not saying you're not going to get 10.
Right, you guys are good with that idea? So I'll make a motion that for the FTO training that we cut that 1,600 hours to 800 hours.
I second that.
Got a motion on the floor with a second. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? So carried. Okay, so at 800 hours, do the math on the FTO training.
You did cut in half, right?
Yeah, 2. That might work out too. I mean, if we get 5 hired guys or somebody that's working another agency to come in part-time.
Or who knows is, retiring that's recent, you know what I mean? Those goats or whatever, those pink elephants, they show up every now and again.
So again, now we're going to look at the phase 2. The phase 2, we're looking at 800 hours, and we're looking at $12,500. And again, that's not anything that's not a line that we actually had before in the past. And the phase 2 and the FTO training. During that phase 2 process, are they going through the phase 2 and they don't have to go through FTO training at the end of phase 2?
No.
That's kind of done at the same time.
Phase 2 is,
Yeah, so-
and they've added, the problem with that is supervisor. The academy has added more time to that.
Understood.
That's where the number comes from.
So phase 2, I mean, that's another number I think we can cut substantially. I feel pretty confident and comfortable with that.
Make a motion, sir.
The only thing is that number, just what we're doing, 800 is a wrong number. That would have been based on 10 if the program is 80 hours. Now it's 120 hours. They added 1 more week of firearms training. So they're away at the police academy for 3 weeks. So now it's 120 hours per person.
So where do they get their firearms training? Do they get it through police, or they
No.
have to go back and forth?
Strictly at the Ulster County Police Academy.
First time.
Yeah.
And is that same thing with the taser and everything else? They do that all back?
No.
Tasers to us.
You guys do that?
Yep.
We save money there actually because they're providing their own ammunition, which, by the way, is a substantial amount of ammo, thousands of rounds.
Yeah, understood.
25
Especially if they
rounds.
fail, and I think they get five attempts and then a one-on-ones, possibly twice.
Well, they're not going to get out of there until they're qualified with those firearms.
Understood. All right, so phase 2, 800 hours, 12,500. What do you guys feel?
I keep going back to the retention thing. And then, I mean, what is the...
He said it's 120 hours instead of 80.
Yeah, okay.
So for the 5 people, that'd be 600 hours.
So there you go, 600.
So you think 600?
If he's saying it's 120,
Yes.
and if I'm going to go off of that and the Joe's math, let's say 600.
Okay, so is that a motion?
I'll make a motion to move it from 800 to 600 hours. Is that what that is? Hours? Yeah. Hours.
Yes. Hours. Okay, we have a motion on the floor to move the 800 hours for phase 2 training back to 600 hours. And we have a second. All in favor?
All right.
Aye. Okay, so Kara, let's do the math on that.
93.75.
That would be the new total.
Is that right? Yeah, 93.75.
That's what I got. And that's going to be a difference of...
New sheets.
3,125. Yep. And that is for phase 2.
What was that total?
93.75.
That is what I believe phase 2 training, 93.75. And the difference between the 12,500 and the 93.75 is going to be $3,125. I'm adding those up just so then we can subtract that from the total request.
I've lost.
Okay, so Post Academy. What is the Post Academy that the phase 2 and the FTO training, where did that come from? That's something we didn't have in the past either.
No, that's
$8,400, or excuse me, 8,400 hours. What is
so
that?
560 hours.
Yeah, 560.
That's based on, again, if they hire 10, there's they have to do 24 hours of the breathalyzer machine, then there's 24 hours of the radar lidar course.
So they don't get that during the academy.
No, and then there's 1 day of taser training. And the thing with the taser training that's become difficult is before where it used to be governed by the DCJS, and you'd have a state level instructor. Now you can only qualify if you have somebody that's certified from the manufacturer, from Axon. So those are few and far between, but it's a one-day
Those
training.
instructors generally attend the factory class, and then they become instructors.
Right. But that's where the one day comes from for that. So
It's also insurance.
yes,
They won't cover.
$15 million.
All right, gentlemen, what's your pleasure there?
200 hours. It's 3,000. It's 5,400.
What do you guys feel?
This is 3,000 what?
Well, you could
Oh,
figure it
sorry.
out first.
I'm wondering if he's got any
Well, you're
anything to say
saying,
here, son.
so you are basically from 560 to 300.
Yeah,
correct?
only because I feel like we overinflated the 600 for phase 2, so I would have cut that in half just to say to he was going off from 10.
So
So
I
I
make a
feel like-
motion. For the
I
post-
make a motion to cut the hours from 560 down to 200 for post academy.
200 or 300?
200.
Okay, so we have a motion on the floor. Do we have a second? Second. A second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So carried.
So that's-
let's do the math on that.
It should be 3,000.
Even?
That's what I came up with at $15, correct? And then what was that? $5,400
Yep.
is the difference.
So there's two over here.
Okay, so our original request, this is going to change. So our original request was, so what did we come up with? Our original request was 613,128.
Wait, no. The original request for the 2024 budget and all the salaries?
No.
Okay, hold on.
When we did our numbers and we figured out, we did the chief, the deputy chief, and the admin. We had a new adjusted total. And I cannot remember.
I had 621.28,
84528.
correct.
Okay, so we had these numbers up and then removed from those numbers. That's correct. Now, these lines were never funded before. The late calls was not funded. This was. So let me just think a minute here. Category.
Are you using the 2024 budget numbers, Supervisor?
Yeah, we can't utilize all those numbers though.
I don't understand that. We changed the numbers and we changed the. So
So we have to come up with new numbers because of the request.
I copied all the numbers down. I got a total.
What you're talking
I
about.
got 775,804.
775
775,804. That's with all the
for. That
changes.
was with removing the others. So let me
Just
just.
changing the chief, the deputy chief, the the admin, and all the other changes that we spoke about, the numbers that you agreed on.
Okay. So. Let me change it.
That's the 2024 numbers.
6.
Let me change. Recall. Special events. Cat court, we said 12,000.
Yes, 12,000.
late calls oversee OTAN and we did 12,000? Yeah.
So 75,804.
What do you have, Joe?
$775,814.28.
$10 more than me. We'll take it. Oh.
Return on bottles.
This is probably the toughest budget that you guys have seen.
There's a lot going on. $775,804.
I thought I heard that right.
That's
what I got.
We're happening at 28.
I left it off.
Yeah.
0.28. 0.28. Sorry.
Yeah, well, the 28
That's
cents.
actually what screwed me up with the 20.
Oh, 20.
Yeah, when he said $10, I lost $10.
28 cents, I think.
Yeah,
is that one.
775,804.
775,804.
Okay, so that's the total request for 21.
I don't know if this is the time to bring it up, but remember we had discussed about the going back to the sergeants, pulling them out of the union. Two of them were capped anyway at the same salary at 35, because it's running into a problem with discipline.
So let me say this. You bring it up, but we won't make a decision onto it.
Yeah.
But I think it's valuable information.
Okay.
So, go ahead.
As a result of the sergeants being promoted, they've taken a significant role in discipline within the same members of the union, and that could create conflicts. So my suggestion would be to pull them out in separate contracts with them. Obviously, two of the three are capped at 35, which wouldn't change anything as far as their pay, but it would be a lot stressful for them, and they could perform their functions as supervisors more efficiently. So it's just something that, I think I've ran this by each and every council member. And to me, in discussing with the deputy chief, it makes sense. And it also, the sergeants have requested that. So it's just, food for thought.
So if you could you write that down as a proposal?
Sure.
And send that to each board member for us to.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
That's right.
So point 2, equipment. Station computers under the first one of the point 2. So it looks like year to date there's nothing that has been spent, but there's a $7,000 request. So station computers, correct me if I'm wrong, we replaced those back in 23 for the sum of $12,973. The budget for 2024 was $5,000, which we didn't expend anything out of there. We spent.
We will. We have some stuff that we're still on order waiting from our computer technician.
What stuff is that?
I believe there's 2 keyboards that we have to get, and he's got to replace a keyboard in one of the cars And then he has to, obviously when he does that, he comes up here and he has to do it because they got to be programmed. So there will be some money spent what's left out of that.
Okay, so realistically, we had a $5,000 budget. I don't anticipate $5,000 being spent on 3 keyboards and updates.
So $5,000 left. There's more. I think there's more than that in the equipment line left.
I don't know what's in your equipment line, but I know we budgeted $5,000 and it shows year to date zero. So the request for $7,000 for
We spend money on computers out of that line. I don't know how it broke
I
down.
think she just went to check the numbers.
Yeah.
I think I have the answer. I think some of that money is allocated from the tech grant, if I'm not mistaken, and it's also the title "Station Computers" is not really an accurate representation. That's also including the vehicle computers. Every police car now has a computer, a tablet, a very sophisticated system that we run through the county. So it's not just whatever we have in the station; it's also the cars that they have laptop kind of things and tablets.
So we're paying out of this line, station computers line, we're paying for the work that's done on the cars, correct?
Yes.
And station computers, whether it's programs, updates, whatever, or
Scanners in the cars. They still scanners.
so how do we not spend any money in 2024?
I think she's going to get some numbers first. When we sat with Tiffany and went over a bunch of these numbers, she explained some of that stuff to us.
Again, correct me if I'm wrong, because I think you maybe hit the nail on the head. Through that $115,000 grant that you achieved, we probably utilized a lot of that money to perform whatever you performed.
I know we spent about $10,000 or $11,000 out of that grant of money already to change and upgrade some systems. Yes, we did.
And I believe your car had a new computer put
Yes.
into it. I believe we also had an additional car that we purchased. We purchased one, or did we purchase two?
Just the one car.
Okay, so we had that car that was purchased. I think there was other radios that were done in your car as well.
Yes.
So that's technology stuff.
We try to utilize as much as we could out of that grant that Sawyer Rafferty us to offset that cost.
Let's do another one.
We do have some
We're hunting. Believe
some
us.
things we can take out of there, and some things we can't. It's all got to be related to the tentative
Yeah.
grants.
Grants, yeah.
It's you don't want to make a mistake because then they come down and really on it. You know?
Was that the grant that you worked on down here with me?
No. That was
That was compared to
fourth grant. Yeah, no.
Because I got to tell you, hours and hours and hours went into that grant.
Oh, I
It
know.
never went anywhere, did it?
Well, you know the reason. So
Yeah. So
I have, we have to save that. We're going to get that in 25. I told the time to roll, and now that you and I have corrected that condition, we'll be able to do it.
Sorry to put you on the spot.
The other thing too that it's a little skewed.
When we went over to the
Microsoft Office
the equipment stuff,
each computer,
you have that.
we have like a Grammarly 1, 2. They add up all these licensing fees and certain
Change
law
some things.
enforcement
This is your
programs.
point two, right?
That, it's not just a physical computer. Programs, the recurring license fees, etc.
That's your point four, don't confuse it.
This is it. The problem is we have these line items here, but they don't break down that way. When you have it, it's equipment, and then we get a total for equipment, and then if it comes out of the equipment, it just comes out of the equipment line item. I don't see where it's broke down to just individual purchase. Like we have some vests in here. It says all state business systems.
Is your copier?
That's the copy of the contract, right? So that's, So the station computers, I know we owe Anthony some money at our computer tech. And I try to tell him, please don't wait till December to give me a bill to get you paid. Which hopefully I know he's got some things on order for us now. Only because I know we had somebody left on our equipment line. It may not be specifically, let me clarify it, it may not be specifically station computers. If it's in the equipment line and there's $10,000 left in the equipment line, I need $4,000 of it for this. We use it for that. It's equipment. As long as it's equipment, and it's my understanding, correct me if I'm wrong, that if it's in our equipment line, we can move it around within our equipment line.
So understood. So let me just say this. So we're looking at the station computers. We have an explanation of where the money goes. Year to date is zero. We had the $5,000 budget, but we anticipate possible bills coming in.
Yes.
And we're proposed for 2025 at $7,000. So when I look at that $7,000, and you're telling me that this money is utilized to fix or update or purchase or license or whatever, then we have below, we have repairs, and I'll get to that in a minute, but we have different lines here, and somewhat it almost seems to replicate itself. But repairs, I will say that 2023 we expended $3,648.59. What did we spend money on repairs in 23? Do you remember just vaguely?
Is that some?
No, that was a while ago. So
Right,
I totally go off.
Some of that may come out like cars when they get fixed.
Okay, so now that being said, under repairs, we have a budget line for 2024 of $8,000. We've spent $350. Okay, so that being said, for 2024, what's your memory of 2024? What we actually utilize repairs for?
There was the repairs. Yeah, I know there was more money taken out for repairs because
It's $350 here.
there was a couple jobs that we didn't put into the insurance company. And we said take it out of the right.
100% understood, but what ends
So where did it come out of?
No. So that came out of 1640, a 1640.
Which is
So what happens is that is not your budget line. So that is the town's budget line where the highway department bills the town. We reimburse the highway department.
okay.
1640.
Now
So-
the lettering for the cars. Where would that come out of?
That would potentially come out of here, but the last few times you guys have done new lettering, it has come out of the highway going to get it done and then coming through a 1640 where the town is reimbursing the highway department.
And that's something we have to change. We can't.
Okay, okay, doesn't sound
Now,
right. Okay.
now when I'm saying that, I'm looking at the $8,000 budget line for 2024, and we've only expended $350. And that being said, now the request is for an additional $2,000.
Because in my mind, I'm thinking we're spending more than that. Now,
We're not.
with that being said,
And that's why I actually go back to 23 to show that those numbers, that is a line that is definitely not an accurate line. So that for repairs, we have to be hitting that line where we're not now. And quite honestly, the request for 10,000, I would even bring that down to 5,000. And I know I'm jumping ahead of station computers, but station computers, I think that you've justified to a degree. So let's before I jump ahead on repairs, so let's go back up to the station computers. So budget request was 5,000. We didn't spend anything. The new proposal is 7,000, and I think that 7,000. I feel like we can cut that back. And what we can cut that back to, I'm going to suggest back to the $5,000 that you had requested in 2024.
okay.
And I think that's being pretty conservative there. So we'll drop that. I'll make a motion to drop that $7,000 back to the $5,000 for the station computers.
Second.
And we have a second on the floor. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? So carried. Now, under the repairs, the $10,000, again, I feel we could drop that back to $5,000 and start hitting that line and utilizing that line where it's supposed to be utilized. So I'll make a motion that we drop that proposed budget of $10,000 to $5,000 under the repair line.
I'll second that.
We have a motion with a second. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? So carried. Cameras. So in 2023, we had no expenditures for cameras. 2024, we have a $2,000 expense, and we have nothing up to that. Nothing spent 2024, and that was increased to $2,400.
Just waiting. I'm actually waiting.
These are the body cameras, correct?
No. This is the in-house camera system, and I'm waiting for our camera guy. We only have one slot left in our configuration of our cameras
Are these the security cameras that you
in the
have?
station, and we have to change that now because the DA is requesting on every single arrest we have to get them a thumb drive with the prisoner.
Okay.
So now we got to upgrade the system a little bit It's, the old system now is like 6-7 years old, and unfortunately, technology doesn't go slow. I buy it today, it's obsolete tomorrow. But
Understood. Tiffany?
We've done upgrades out of the ACAP for them, so you wouldn't see that in their point two. We did it out of capital improvements for some of their.
So that's actually where we funded it in the past through capital improvements.
Yeah, like we kind of did with our town hall computers, so you wouldn't necessarily see it
At
in the
same
budget.
time, yeah. So that being said, for the 2,000 to 2,400, what would be a safe? What would be? Go ahead.
If you look at number at point 4, there's also camera systems on there for 6,500. So we got cameras in.
Yeah,
Well, that's something different.
Okay.
That's something. Yeah, well, we'll talk about that when we come on. Your cameras, and you kind of defaulted to
this camera 2400 is correct.
For the station.
so.
Right now, we need cameras to take. You got to take photographs of the prison. You need a camera for that. We try to keep a camera, $150 camera in each car for the scenes. We used to be able to use.
35 millimeter was what we had to use in the past.
Right. Well, and now what's happening now is
We had to send 2 guys to school for evidence cameras.
right because what's happening is. In today's technology, officers are going there and using their phone. The DA says, okay, now I want your phone for evidence. They're taking their phones.
Yep, understood.
So we're trying to get away from that. That 2400 was put in there this year. We're going to try to restart putting cameras back in the
So
car.
this is under your point 2 we're talking.
Right. The equipment is going to go in there.
So 2,000, you wanted to go to 2,400,
Yep.
and your justification. So right now, every car has a camera, correct?
Well, they got those little throwaways in them, but they're
But
not.
they satisfy our requirements, and we do have cameras in the cars. You want to purchase cameras that are a better grade cameras.
Well, according to what we're going to need from the DA.
Yeah, well understood.
And that's what they cost, 2,400.
Well, you got to have one for each car.
Yeah,
We've got.
So I'm saying
Ain't about
that's what it is.
24 hours each. No,
No.
No, I'm saying if that's what
2 hours.
Realistically, it's just in my mind, and I may be wrong, but you probably get them under state contract for $60-$80. They're not. They're not the Canon cameras that you're going to go to the sporting events with,
Right.
but they're legitimate approved.
Something we can use to download, and if they want to seize the camera or they want the camera for the evidence, we can turn it into them. So what would you like to do with that, Supervisor?
I would again. I would like to bring that down to somewhere around $1,800, and move that up to a conversation for you guys.
Okay. It's always subject to change, and we have to come back to the board and discuss it if it's justifiable.
Well, if you want one in every car, you have how many cars on the road? I mean, they're not.
Marked units. That's what she's 7 mark. So 7 times,
7, you got 6. You got
well,
6.
it's counting the chief's car. He's out on patrol quite often.
All right. So
And then if you're saying DA could take them for evidence, that could tie them up for a little while.
So it's really,
well, they don't
And
take the
station.
camera. What they do is they take the SIMS card out of it.
Oh, okay, okay.
I think, with 1,800, I think we can, and like I said, as long as it's open to the subject, we can come back
So
to
I'll
the
make a
board.
motion that we change that request from $2,400 to $1,800.
I'll second that.
We got a motion on the floor with a second. All in favor? Aye. Okay, we'll do 1,800. Now, next one, gun racks and new guns. Let's start off with the easy one. Gun racks. Didn't we already put those gun racks in those cars?
Yeah, that's going to be at a 24 budget.
So we don't have to worry about the gun racks per se.
So I literally have the quote we just got. I'm just ready to put in a requisition, just make sure that
That's
it's
a 24 budget.
Okay, so that'll be satisfied. The next thing, new guns. We talked about them last year. We were anticipating the urgent money. We
For the trade-in, and we're still anticipating on that, whatever the 20 grand that we have left.
We were told the guarantee that we have 40,000 coming. So out of that 40, we know we have to give the town 20,000 back for the purchase of that car.
20 or 22.
21 and change, right, for the car? 21,
Yeah.
9, 28 or something? 21, 6, like that? 22. 20. Okay, Supervisor.
So that being said, that's not going to come until the second meeting of November. I don't want to count that as revenue and not get that either. You know what I'm saying? So when I look at this in the anticipation of $8,000, you know, if I have an in and out, if I know that I'm getting $8,000 in, I know we can put the $8,000 out. But I don't want to do that and not be assured that that's going to come in. So look, honestly, this appears, and you correct me if I'm wrong, that $7,000 appears to be anticipated that the money is coming in, you're going to have the money to pay for it. Right. So that being said, I am almost thinking in my mind that we can take that $7,000 completely off of there, knowing that that's what you're going to be spending the money on, and I can feel pretty comfortable doing that. That's the anticipation. We don't have to worry about that if that's what you're doing. And I believe you checked with that last year, and that was an approved purchase with that money.
Yeah.
So
Recently, just to go on with the guns is holsters. The Academy now is not taking our issued holsters anymore. They're saying they're not.
You mean for the phase 2?
Yeah.
And the Academy is not allowing or not giving?
Oh, no, they don't give anything.
Really?
So we're now purchasing holsters. Obviously, when they leave, if they leave another department, they have to leave our equipment.
Understood.
But we're looking at the Safari Land holsters, which meets their requirements. That was the estimated cost, $190 per holster.
190, but also to that point, New York State is changing the shooting criteria for officers to qualify. It's much more difficult. Right now, it has a 50% failure rate. It hasn't been implemented yet because not all the shooting instructors have been given the new updates.
So that being said, I think there's actually less amount of shots that are fired, correct?
No, not accurately, but more. You have to qualify with more precision. So the state police, for example, they've gone to this new level 3 also we're talking about. Plus, I think they're having the red dot laser system, and that helps the deficiencies of people shooting qualify, because we don't want to get into a thing where half our officers are failing and then we have to send them back, and then we're spending that much more in ammo, and also for savings ahead in 25. If we transition to the 9mm, the ammunition, because it actually weighs less, is less money than the 40 caliber bullets that we pay money. So there'll be some savings with that if we go ahead, and then we'll also realize savings costs with the fact that the officers don't have to go out a whole other day and we qualify our day after that, and then we have them on the road.
And then the optics, there's a transitional training going to taking up that
So let me ask you this: with the optics on there, is that something that's going to be a liability to the town? Are we going to be indemnified with the optics if somebody has the optics on a weapon?
No, actually,
they utilize that weapon and they weren't trained into it.
No, they will be trained into it.
Everybody's going to be trained in it, regardless of whether they utilize it or not.
Right. Really, it's the holsters that we're ordering, that we will be ordering, are capable of the optics and a light. Fixed light underneath it, which, believe it or not, when you take somebody, and we had the Glock demo guy come, the shooting was like 100% on people that were 70% shooters once they acquired that dot. And, like I said, the transitional training to pick up that dot, that's just like a matter of muscle memory. And after a while, they're point on. So it's actually, as far as the liability, it decreases it because they're more accurate.
Okay, so if I may, give me your opinion, guys. Under the gun rack / new guns, we'll remove that 7,000 from that line completely. Okay, so I will do that as a motion. We have a motion on the floor to remove that 7,000 completely.
Can we leave a little in there for holsters, possibly?
The union contract specifies that the department supplies them, so that they'll come back with a grievance if we try to force that.
So since you didn't spend any money in 24, can you buy them in the end of November, December?
Yes, we could.
Yeah, look at you. Nice.
So the cost is still at your holster?
Right now, I have three quotes, approximately 100. Yes.
There you go.
Now, mind you, on the 3 quotes, it may be a little difficult. Because number one, the Academy requires certain specs to the holster, and right now the only one that's on point is Safari Land. So just letting you know that we will get
So is the anticipation to buy the safari lands for all of the officers?
Yes.
So it's all standard.
Standard
Yeah.
area has the same. Correct.
So this is what Academy, Ulster County?
Yes.
Is Rockland the same way, and the other academies are all using safari land holsters?
Everybody's going to optics. State police, everybody. Sheriff's department, everybody.
Saving the lawsuits.
It's the other thing too. It's not just the holster; it's the level of security. They're called level 3 technically. So we had very antiquated holsters that were from like 1995. They were in very poor condition. I did have 2 of our officers went down to the Rockland Academy, and I was called immediately and told them I got to come down and furnish them with this, or they're going to kick them out. And we were able to borrow from the town of Shawangum 2 holsters. So thankfully for our friends.
So you got 200 and a number at, what's the number that you would need?
3,800.
Oh,
And $190
they
piece.
have 8,000 from the 2024 budget, and if the money comes, it's pretty much.
Well, yeah, no, I was just saying the number of holsters
So
that you need.
let me just go back under this one to remove. I made the motion for the 7,000 to remove that 7,000. Would you second that?
I did not yet.
Okay, so
I don't think anybody
waiting for a second.
Second.
Second, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? So carried. So we'll take that. 0. And we have the evidence camera, $6,500.
That's the high class ones, pretty.
I would imagine that is high class with a van to bring it to the scene.
What happens is we, since we have 2 detectives, they go to any scene. You have to. Let's say that it's a burglary. You have to take photos starting from the outside and work your way in.
Understood.
Every piece of evidence has to be kept in its original place, has to be photographed. That being said, you can change lenses. Lenses is the cost. We don't need 2 cameras. We need a camera with different lenses so they can share, because both detectives aren't working at the same time. Pricing them around, they're not, like I said, the cost to me is not the body, it's the lenses.
The other thing with the cameras too, so cheaper cameras, I've had it happen recently in a year. It's very cold weather outside. You'll take it with an electronic camera, and when they come out and we come back, they'll be blurred and have like what looks like a lightning bolt going through it. So we've had some serious cases where it undermined the whole credibility of the case or the evidence presented. So it's a precision tool for a precision job.
And once let's say we'll go back to a burglary scene. The detective that's taking the pictures has somebody log every step of the way where the evidence was found. Because think about it, once all that's logged in, we have to take it into evidence. Mm-hmm. And then once we go to court, we have to show the picture, tie the picture to the log, so there's a sequence of events that occurred, an accurate sequence of events. So
Totally understand. I've not only actually taught that class, taken that class, I've utilized that. So the evidence camera at $6,500, the anticipation is to purchase 1 camera with multiple lenses, I guess. I don't know how many that would be. But again, I think that's a pretty healthy number at $6,500. I don't know, what's your guys' opinion?
You can get 1. How much is a lens usually?
They goes from $150 to $600.
So my brother has a camera in his lenses. It costs him $10,000.
Oh,
Well, there's
nothing there.
yeah. But again, we're not going out doing that kind of photography.
Yeah.
well, really, you are doing that kind of photography because there's this lens now that focuses in on latent fingerprints. Micro stuff. So I mean, I was shocked looking at the
How much
prices.
of that do we do right now?
Right now, we're using what we have, which is it's inadequate. In other words, we really don't want to present what we have right now in court.
Understood.
What we're doing is we kind of plagiarize what the sheriff's department recommended after the course they gave to the 2 officers, which is based on our needs. That's what they suggested, so that's probably what we went on.
I want to be realistic, and I'm going to give you a number, just the thought process. Is it something that you guys can achieve with $3,000?
We can sure attempt it. I mean, 3,000 is better than nothing, the way I look at it. But it's going to get us, once again, it may be something that we can build up every year.
We buy the body and the lens, and then look at
Keep
what
working
we
with
need.
it.
Yeah.
The cases, the protective cases.
Yeah, protective cases, all that.
I would assume that temperature-wise, that they're going to be kept in the cars. And, they're not
No,
going
they're
to.
going to be
No,
kept
it's
inside in the station.
Yeah.
So, what do you guys think?
I think 3,000 is something. I mean, with these SLR cameras, is that what they are?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, they're not cheap, so you got to get one and then a couple lenses. I think 3,000 is probably get some really nice SLR.
I have no idea. I would have to listen to some of your stuff because I have no idea what cameras cost, and I've never done it.
I mean, if they're those kind of cameras, they're not cheap.
Yeah.
And then the lenses that
We do
go.
3,000 this year, and then we realize we need more. We can always budget for it next year too.
All right, so I'll make a motion that we change that line from $6,500 to $3,000 for the evidence cameras. So we have a motion on the floor. We have a second. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? So carried. 3,000. And the measuring roll. What is that? The wheel?
Yes.
A couple of them.
Yep. Yeah, it's okay. And
I was going to say, because they're like $69 a piece. I know about them.
Well, we started to do more of the accident reconstructions.
Understood.
So this is just equipment staying.
So I think that's good. If nobody has any questions on that, the
That's
digital voice recorder with the little ones that clip on.
No.
No, the voice recorder, a lot of times
Kind of like this.
we're recording conversations. Nowadays, it's all digital.
Yep.
So I should have brought mine. I have a small one. When I was undercover, I was able to record a lot of conversations, which is valuable in court. You're not going to deny your voice. I think that really each detective should have at least one. And that's something that we got to price out.
Right, and just in addition to that, it saves us money in a strange way. If you do something with an analog tape or CD, I got to run that tape up to the DA's office for discovery when they want it. This way, they have a digital report.
They can download and-
So I'll tell the detective, hey, email me that conversation in its entirety. Boom, I just forward it. So there's a collateral cost saving by having digital.
So it's very similar to what's being used here.
Yeah, they're a lot actually thinner and smaller now, right?
No, I think they're more sophisticated. They have a higher bandwidth. The sampling rate's higher. It's a lot more clarity than.
You're talking about purchasing 2.
Yeah.
Tell me you're going to purchase 4.
Okay.
We're going to purchase 2, and we're going to try to find the grant guys.
So what's your feelings, guys, on the $550 request for the digital voice recorders?
I'm comfortable with 550.
Sounds good.
Dark? Okay. So let's do the math.
15,500.
What is it?
15,500. It's correct.
Okay, so total $15,500. So I'm going to make a motion to take a 2-minute.
One and a half.
Well, one's contractual,
And we are looking at the .4 contractual. So, under our .4 contractual, my Comco, we budgeted $13,200, and year-to-date was $92,40.30. And we're proposing going up to $15,000. Is that contract been verified? Is that $15,000 accurate, or is that a guess?
It should be the new rate.
Yeah.
We added radios, a couple of radios that we added. One of the Chiefs Guard.
We upgraded our radios.
And we upgraded a couple of the.
Is that what our contract award is? $15,000? That's the bill, or what?
Well, actually, so I have 2 bills that were sent in. So some of the radios are on a lease for $1,200.
Yeah.
That's a monthly recurring fee, and then they just added recent more equipment. So I don't know if that figure is going to fall short of it, but
Well, from 13.2 to 15.
right.
That's, to me, it's an increase. I understand what you're saying,
Yeah.
but it's an increase that, did we anticipate it? No, we didn't anticipate it. So,
On my Comco's monthly bill.
Yeah, currently you guys are at
I think they changed it already. if I'm not mistaken. So give me the monthly cost now, please. 12 something a month.
Currently, as of the last bill that I entered today, you're currently at $11,641 year to date.
Isn't our monthly? What's the monthly?
I think it's 12250.
1250 something change
Yeah.
or something, right?
I have that
right.
bill on my phone.
That would be correct. 1252 times 12 is $15,000 a year. That's our monthly bill, right?
52.
1252 times 12, right? 12 times 12. I just had 1252 times 12. That's actually 15,024, so $15,000. That's our monthly bill. That contract's been signed, yeah, so that definitely shouldn't change.
That contract's been signed.
That's been done already. She signed with Bill Tuttle, I believe, from Nycomco. Does that sound correct?
Yep.
And I think it's a 7-year contract.
Well, whatever it was, they didn't extend it. They just changed the numbers. They had the radios that we had and the upgraded portables.
Okay, so the 15,000 is accurate for Nycomco.
That's correct.
And we have the uniform buyout and reimbursement.
Right.
So we had that at 16,500. We expended, in 2024, we expended 14,918.72, and the increase is $500 to $17,000.
And that's because you have guys that are working more hours. That goes on an hourly thing. As you all know, the contract states, if you work this many hours, you get this. So again, that could be a little off one way or the other because we can only estimate where we're going to go. But guys have been putting more hours in, so if they go to the next level, they get the more money in the uniform reimbursement.
So now that we have all these guys coming out of the academy, we should have a lot more people spreading those hours, and they shouldn't increase so
That
much.
should definitely help.
So,
It could be next year.
so
The uniform reimbursement goes on this year.
yeah. And we don't know what that contract's going to read next year. That we're in negotiations with
That's
that.
where we're still in negotiations.
So
correct.
at 16,500 with the increase to 17,000, and again year to date is 14,918.72. What's your feeling on that, Jeremy?
Uniform buyout.
And
I'm good with the 17,000.
And I can tell you along with that, if somebody,
I mean, they used it in 23. Yeah, 17 is good.
Yep.
okay,
You can see the trends.
yep,
All right, so 17, and let me just do that. So, copier contract. Our copier contract is 1705, and year to date, there's nothing.
that should be coming, I believe that comes due in December,
Yeah.
Tiffany.
Yeah, I believe it's December.
So, and then that is in contract. So
That is in contract, yes, sir.
Computer tech. Computer tech, you wanted to cut that by 4,000?
I'm sorry, guys, 1705. We're 3/4 of the year, and we're about to go past the agreed upon number per copy that we think, and they charge us 7 cents. So I would think you'd be a little fair if you just bring it up.
They're charging you 7 cents
Once you go over the allotted numbers as per that contract per page you print with the thing. So we're falling a little short on that. So I would just recommend.
Who negotiated that contract?
It wasn't me.
That's a separate billing only if they go over their actual usage.
Yeah.
So your actual contract that you're going to pay
It's still the
is
same.
at 1705.
Right,
If it goes over, then you would want to budget for that somewhere else.
right, not in that contract.
Not in that contract.
Correct.
Yeah, because it is contractual, it's 0.4. All right, so the computer tech. Computer tech right now, the budget was $7,500. We spent year to date is
Again, come the end of
$4,576.
November, December, we'll get his final bill for his calling times and he logs in a lot of times remotely. I'm not sure that's what your guy does here. He has access to, if I call him and tell him, listen, the sergeant, Vass's computer's had an issue, hang on, he can remotely log in and start working on the computer and resolve the problem. And then he'll do that maybe for 2 months, and then they'll bill us for that.
Have we ever looked at prices of other techs
Sure.
or tech services?
10 times higher than that.
Yeah, that's
This is Anthony.
Yes, you know, Anthony's been very, very good to us.
And it's the ones in the car too. It's what we pay next door compared to what we're paying Anthony and versus the service. I work next door. It's like I'm lucky if somebody gets back to me in 4 days. You know, Anthony, he's very hands-on, past hours, evening. You know, he'll call me at my house and do things. He's we have a lot of realized savings with employing him. Honestly,
Yeah, he's been with us for quite a while too, right?
Yes, we've had him by about 12, 13 years now.
All right. So Verizon Wireless sell push-to-talk modems. $6,000. You want to increase that to $8,000. And year to date is $55,48,451. And what's your justification in raising that?
We added 2 phones to the station, but to the patrol cars, they have these special
That's the
phones.
push-to-talk. That was the push-to-talk.
Yes. Those 2 phones been added. And whatever
Year
the
to
monthly.
date, they're at $7,050.
I say right now it's going to be a lot higher than
That's
7,000
as of
something.
vouchers that I entered today.
And we still got 2 more
Or
months.
Sarah entered.
All right. So that's 8,000.
Probably gonna be
You
over.
guys are okay with that?
Yes.
As long as the bill's coordinated, yeah.
Yeah. Looks like Verizon MiFi. And that was budgeted down 2024 for $600. Year to date is $265.05.
We added 1.
You added one. Yeah. Okay. And then the proposed request here for 2025 is $1,000. So that's a $400 increase. How many do you have?
2 MiFis, I believe we have right now.
We have 2. So we have 2 at 600, 3 that would bring it to 900. And you're requesting 1,000.
Okay.
What do you think, gentlemen?
Yeah, but if you look here, in 2023, there were 526.
Yep.
That was for 1, right? Or was that for 2?
No, that was for 2 probably back at that time.
Oh, okay.
You've always had 2, correct? Yeah.
Yeah, I think 1,000.
Okay.
Okay, so that's good. Optimum station telephone, internet, cable, and Wi-Fi. So the 2024 budget was $4,100, and they expended $84.11, and the proposed budget would be again for $4,100. So what is the difference between what we've spent here?
Well, we're probably close to that now. If I would guess, we paid a couple bills for them.
What's that?
Yeah, you're at roughly 2,100.
How much?
21.
Yeah, and how many more we got left?
2, correct?
No. Their last.
This.
You might want to look into your Optimum bill. Because I haven't gotten one since July.
Okay.
Okay, so that's a
Bobby.
telltale, so-
The Optimum bill came. Wasn't that when we switched over the phones? Didn't Bobby switch the phones?
And I think it's
Yes.
something else with,
Our
yeah.
phone lines got switched somehow.
Wired the copper lines and put it onto the modem.
yeah, voice.
Correct.
Yeah.
So, all right, I'll look into that.
Which you
Optimum part.
did see a savings with the doing it that way, but check and make sure.
Okay.
So for all intents and purposes, I mean, even in 2023, at 3904.23.
Pretty close.
So
Yeah, it's.
I'm going to say they're pretty close, but he probably only did that in the past year.
Yes.
I think it was the last year.
Correct.
Okay. So we'll look at that, but just because we don't know that unknown, I would leave that at 4,100.
Okay.
This one always gets me. Garbage. The budget for 2024 was $720. We've expended $448, and we actually cut that down to $672. So that is good. When I see cuts, I like that. Fuel, it looks like we expended back in 23, $1,273.29. The budget for 24 was $2,000. Year to date is $567.37. You requested another
We'll
$2,000.
probably get a load. Just usually they come around November, end of November to top off whatever's in the tank.
Understood.
And that, I believe that's an encumbered amount. Is that correct? Don't we encumber that?
That comes out of highway.
I think so, yeah.
No.
It's off
garbage.
state bid, I know that.
The
Garbage.
garbage company comes and picks it up. That's what the
It's
garbage
in our
is.
budget though.
Yeah, but doesn't Linda send that to me?
What?
As far as
The bill?
No, it's encumbered.
Okay.
Am I correct on that, Tiffany?
Yeah.
That money comes out right at the beginning of the year. As soon as the budget's approved, that money gets taken right out of the way and put aside because it's a guaranteed money. Am I saying that correctly, Tiff?
Yes.
It's what they call an encumbered amount.
Got it.
So for the fuel oil, again, just like the chief alluded to, and the deputy, the 567 year to date isn't really accurate what we're going to spend because November, December, it's going to get cold. It's probably, okay, so that's going to remain at 2,000. Easy Pass, $150 for 2024, expended $50, and they're looking for $150.
And there's another $50 bill just came through not that long ago. I don't know if we paid it yet or if I just got it. I just gave it to you, I believe.
The ID bills? Or?
No, Easy Pass.
Yes, that's correct.
So
That should be coming through the town's credit card. That should be coming through the credit card now.
It does go through it goes on my town credit card. That's correct.
On the Elon card.
Elon or Yvonne.
Yes. Okay, so that Easy Pass, and again, expended in 2023 was 100. 150, what do you gentlemen think?
I'm good with keeping it.
Okay, association fees. So the budget in 2024 was $450. Year to date is $120, and the request is $1,500. So those association fees, they don't change that much. They should remain the same.
It's quick, and usually they come to the end of the year.
Yeah, so $1,500, and you're looking back at 23, $355.
We added,
We have more members.
right, all three sergeants now are involved in the Chiefs Association.
That makes sense to me. I didn't realize that it was broke down that way.
Okay.
I was thinking it was one fee for the entire department.
Yeah, because what happened was, remember we had that meeting recently with the architect?
Yeah.
I couldn't go, so Sergeant Vasta, he went. So at least, somebody's going to be at these meetings, if not all of us.
Understood. All right, so the $1,500, and what do you guys think of that?
Good with it as long as it's,
Okay, Central Hudson. The budget for 24 was $4,500, and they lowered that by $500 to $4,000. Okay, good.
Yes, sir.
Camera system. Here's where we stop. $6,500, and there was nothing in 23-24. So
This is the one we're talking about upgrading at the station.
okay, are we talking about replacing it?
Well, I'm working with the guy now. The guy's retired. He's still a cop, but he has his business on his own. He's the one who installed this original one. The problem with this original, we have no room left on it. It was a smaller system back then. It wasn't that expensive. We would need to upgrade the internal parts to handle more cameras and more sophisticated cameras. He gave me this number. That's with installation and everything. I said to him, is there any way we can cut corners and use some of our old mixed with the new? And he was looking into that. I haven't spoken to him on that lately. Maybe we can save $1,500 if we can use some of the older stuff.
How many cameras was it?
This would be 10 cameras. We're at 7 or 8 right now. I'll be adding 3 to specific areas.
So let me ask you this: can you achieve that at say 4,500?
I will work the best I can with this. He's always been good to us.
Who is this, CDR?
No, he's a private company. His name is Edward Schumann. He's a
Charlie. When you said retired cop, I was wondering.
Yeah, we can do that, Supervisor. We'll do our best.
What does the rest of the board feel about that?
What was it, 45?
4,500.
Suggestion.
If he could work with it, if he thinks he can work with it, I'm fine with it.
Okay, I'll make a motion. We drop that 6,500 to 4,500.
Second the motion.
The motion is second. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? So carried. Next one is the elephant in the room. So, Chief, you were going to give me prices on that 40 and 9mm, the difference.
Yeah, we're working on that now with different manufacturers. We don't have an exact price that we just have estimated prices.
So, let me ask you
There's
this.
not going to be
As far as-
much of a difference between the 40 and the 9. The 9 will definitely be cheaper.
It should be quite a bit, like a third cheaper. It's just, I'm guessing.
Yeah, we're hoping.
Yeah. So, that being said, the anticipation was in the budget for 24 for the ammo was 2,000.
But also, Supervisor, just so that you know, that this is not including pistol ammunition. That's rifle ammunition, shotgun ammunition, targets, flares.
That does not include pistol, or that includes?
No,
That's all ammunition.
Right, that's all ammunition.
Anything that goes boom.
So that being said, we're right now at 1851.67. We budgeted 2,000. The year before was 1621.56, and I know those prices are all over the map. But the request is for $4,500, which is $2,500 increase on that.
If we're switching all 9mm, we're going to buy a lot of ammo in one shot. That would be my only theory.
Keep in mind, we're not going to be buying the 40s, and the 9 is going to be cheaper.
Where do we keep the ammo? Where does all that stuff go?
It's locked up in the evidence room.
Yeah, it's got to be secured.
I was going to say, you have all these.
A range officer has a key, and he needs it.
The range officer is in charge of all firearms, all serial numbers, inventory of firearms, upkeep of the firearms. The shotguns are stored separately, the long guns are stored separately, and the ammunition. And the pistols are stored. Everything's documented and serial numbers and accounted for.
All right, so what's your feelings?
I had 3,500 written down here, but I just want to figure out how I came up with that. But you said the guns are going from 40 to 9, correct?
Yep.
And when are you doing the guns? Didn't we just discuss we have to still get the guns?
We'll probably do that in November? November, beginning of December or something like that.
Yeah, that's their anticipation.
More than likely, we'll voucher them out for this year, 2024.
Okay. So then you'd have to front load all new ammo, is what you're saying.
Basically.
And whatever 40 we have left, obviously we would trade that in.
Try to, yes.
Yeah, try to.
He said it's also for shotgun ammo, rifle ammo.
Yeah, it gets everything. I mean, I don't want to say I'm ambivalent on it, but for some reason I wrote down 3,500, so.
What's your
It's just
feeling?
I don't know, I just can't get my thoughts.
What's your feeling?
I'm good with the 4,500. We're going to have to stock up quite a bit on 9mm. Hopefully they give us some money back for the 40 cal.
And just so that you know, when the officers brought to the range, the qualification course is 50 rounds, but they're probably up into 100 rounds by the time they do drills as far as problems, jams, whichever, a lot of people say guns don't jam. Well, sometimes you get faulty ammo, especially if it's ball ammo. So, there's transitional training from pistol to rifle. These are all makes the ammo.
We're shooting 223?
Yeah.
How many of those? Yeah, we don't have one for every car, correct?
No, we have, I think, 7 right now.
Yeah, we do have one. Yes, we do.
You do have? Are they in every car, or are they?
We don't have enough racks for every
We don't
car.
have enough racks, so I don't want them in the cars until we get secured racks. And even though we'll have secured racks, the officers are going to be assigned to a weapon. They're responsible for the safety and securing those weapons. Nothing will be left in the cars. So they've got to sign them out like their radios, bring them back in and secure them.
Okay. So this includes shotgun.
Shotgun, 223,
Double buck, double O buck,
double, and slug.
and slugs. 223s.
Any 300 blackout, anything fun?
At my house.
I got you some 308 rounds.
What about non-lethal rounds? Do you have to buy those also?
Well, funny you should say that. We just ordered, or in the process of ordering, we ordered already the non-lethal. We have the shotguns already. We're going non-lethal. They're going to be orange stocks, orange
Oh, and it's
busted everything.
Taters cartridges?
Even our orange
So you've already purchased
slings.
this.
So in that ammo, we have to get the rubber pellets, which is non-lethal. So we have a non-lethal.
It's a bean bag, right?
And just that being said, too, Deputy Chief Smith brought up, we currently have these about to be antiquated tasers at the end of this month. They expired. The $15 million liability insurance goes away. So we're almost out of those cartridges. But
Taser cartridges?
yeah, but in 2025, if everything goes to plan here, we're going to lease the new models, which they'll give us, they'll pay for us to have instructors. They'll supply us with X amount of cartridges that we would need. We calculated that, and it's a big savings instead of purchasing. You know, all these companies are going to models of you lease it, we'll take care of it. If you buy it, you know, maybe in 2 years we'll discontinue it and hand you another $10,000. So we're trying to avoid that.
All right, so back here on the ammo, what do you feel, James?
I'm good with it. They have to practice. They're going to have to start for it.
Okay, so I'm okay unless somebody wants to make a motion. I'm okay with that 4,500. AED supplies. That's for each car, correct?
Yeah.
So the AED supplies, we did spend 3642 back in 23. Did we utilize all those supplies, or did we purchase them in stock?
They expire.
5 years, correct?
Some stuff, and also we'd like to, and we'd like to buy another unit. And we only have, I think there's 3 there now. We'd like to have it, so we have an extra unit.
We only have 3.
I think there's 3 AEDs, 1 training unit, and 3. We gave the oldest
So
one.
all of our cars,
Don't have AEDs in them. No. And we try to keep them in the car anyway, Supervisor, because in the winter months it kills the batteries. And it really hurts the batteries. You probably know that. So we try to keep them in and out of the station. We'll run out of them available.
And then the other thing too on that too, we're out of, because of those expiration of those pads. We had to borrow pads from town of Shotton, so I have those up there. We were about to put in a big order in to get us up to par. That's sitting on my desk right now. So
Kelly Nelson did a great job of clearing out a lot of expired stuff. So she really did a great job. I
and
don't
so last year we budgeted 4,000. It says you spent 0.
that order's on my desk.
So that's a 24 budget.
It's almost $3,000 over.
Okay, so there's $4,000 that we budgeted for.
Okay.
That being said, $4,000 for 2025. That's to purchase one
unit.
Okay, so
They vary in price. I
when
haven't
are we
gotten all the
going to
prices
spend
on
the
them.
other $3,500 on?
They're not $500. They're a lot more than $500.
Depending on the unit, I don't know what unit you're using.
Yeah. So, well,
They vary in price, but what I'm saying is $4,000.
Oh, here you go.
You know,
There it is right here.
is this the
$3,073.99.
Is that the same one you
This
use
is the one we're
all of
using.
the cars?
This is the one we're using. Right. Same company.
Good, they're all the same though.
Right. So it's sort of pads. You got to try to keep the pads all plugged in correctly. But again,
How much is that unit?
$3,073.99 for this one.
And the pads can't be used cross-manufactured. It's not like a tire in a car where you put on this car that. It's manufacturer specific.
That's why I'm glad you got them all uniform and they're all the
Yes.
same.
It's just like a gun. They all have the same guns.
Yeah.
Right.
All right, what's your pleasure, gentlemen?
I think we leave it if they're gonna.
Okay. Vests. We have a request to go from 5,000 to 18,000. That is quite a jump too. And year to date, we are at $2,806. Excuse me. Are we currently or actively looking at grants for those?
Southern Rhapsody has already obtained a partial grant moving forward from this date forward. Any vests that we buy, we pay in full. We save the receipt. I just did one tonight with them when it just came in for a new officer. We will be reimbursed for 50% of that cost. Correct, Serge?
That's correct. And
But tell them the cost of the vest.
Yeah.
the vests, on average, $1,000. The grant went into effect on April 1st. So anything we bought April 1st going forward from now on, as long as they fund it, we were reimbursed 50%. anticipating when those checks come back, the reimbursement fund. It takes about 3 to 4 months. That was according to the federal government. The thing we're coming up on with this estimate, where I get this figure from, was the officers that we're hiring, plus now we're facing officers that have expiring vests that are current officers right here. So that figure comes from that. But again, even those officers with expiring vests, when we buy new ones, we're reimbursed at 50% by the federal government for that. So
How much money was in that grant?
it's not a specific amount. It's just whatever the cost of the vest is, it's 50%. And it's been
That has to sunset at some point. Is it 6
No,
months?
it's
Is it a
been-
year? Is it 3 years?
This grant has been around for 15 years plus,
Nice.
so, it doesn't look like it's going to be...
So $1,000 vest inevitably is going to cost us $500.
Right, and now let me just add to that real quick too. We're always looking if we get somebody new coming in, if they're from a recent, we did it last year. When they came in, we spent $400 from another agency, we bought the vest out. So we're always looking. Colin Back was one of them,
Yes. Yeah, we bought that. That's because it was already fitted for him.
Yeah, perfect. It's brand new.
You got a guy tailoring it.
So, like I said, we all look to these, cost measuring things. If an officer goes to another agency and they're not allowed to, what we say, double tan, they can't work part-time here because they're on probation there. We've made relationships, thanks to Chief Lopez, putting this in the Chiefs Association, where we call up the other agency, hey, we have the same spec vest that you guys purchased. It's way out. Do you guys want to purchase it? So some municipalities, they're agreeable to that. Some are saying, I can't do it because we're locked into a contract.
How many vests do we need?
Well, if we're hiring...
We're hiring 5 people. We need 5 vests.
That's
$5,000.
Well, that's
Plus, who do you got right now?
It's plus the replacement for this.
grants.
That's what I'm saying. I'm just trying to figure out. So you got 5 guys coming on, and then you have 17 there, right? So that's 23.
Right, but I think 5 is far too conservative a number. Again, like we're bringing those 5 highly likely to leave before the year's out. So we seem to be.
So again, what do we do with that vest when they go?
Well, they can buy it. We still get the reimbursement of 50%.
Whether they buy we're going to get the vest. That's
Right, but maybe outside of this discussion, maybe with the PBA we come up with some agreement. If you leave within the year, because that's what Tanashang does. Like you leave within the year, or this is prorated. First year, you leave another year, you're 100% on the hook. The amount. If you leave within 3 years, it comes down to like 3/4. Most agencies have that provision, but it has to be worked out with the PBA.
We ran into it, the last guy with Officer Esposito. He was with us part-time, gets a brand new vest, still in the box, leaves, gets hired by either the town or the village of Cornwall, or of Goshen rather. He says, I'll buy the vest. When he goes for the interview, they said, we provide you with a vest. So now he backed out of buying a fitted vest. So what do we do? So something's got to go in the contract as far as if you leave at a certain time, then you owe us this money.
But the other thing with those vests, when they hit Esposito, we do use it as a temp vest. Unfortunately, Officer Esposito was a very skinny and shaped officer. When we hired Amy Bassett, it fit her pretty well. Not perfect in some areas, but
Until her vest came in.
Yeah, so we do have a function for them. It's not a total loss, and if we go in negotiations with the PBA, we can clean that up.
All right, so you guys feel comfortable with the 5,000 to 18,000? Mr. Bates.
Well, I'm thinking if we say the number of vests they want to get, what's the number of vests that you're looking at this year?
Roughly 18 to 20.
It's $20,000.
Remember, you get 50%
We
back.
get
in 3 months.
50% back.
Yeah.
So now
I
you-
always discount that to nothing.
Absolutely.
That could
Be
go on.
gone
I'm just saying, 15 years, and some politicians are going to be gone. So it's $20,000.
Just put it in your budget.
Yeah, it's 20 G's.
Even if you get the money back, correct me, Ricky, so we still have to put it in the budget.
Correct.
When the money comes back, it returns revenue to the town.
I just don't want unsafe cops. You know what I mean? I don't want these guys having the vest is pretty
Okay, if we can get AEDs to save lives, we can get vests to protect lives.
There you go. There you go,
I'll
John.
make a motion that we keep that.
Okay, so let's keep it at 18,000. All right, let's do the math on. No, wait a minute, we still have more. I'm sorry.
Oh, wait, there's more.
We can do the page total. Let's do this.
The never-ending budget.
Yep, let's do the page total here. So
Where's that page?
I believe we only changed the camera system, correct?
Yeah.
2,000 off the total, correct?
See, it's 94, 627 on that page.
That's correct.
Yeah, the other page is 154. Wait,
I must have lost my page.
yeah, there's one
He's
page.
jumping ahead.
It should be 4 pages, yeah.
Okay, so we have one for contractual. So office supplies, expended back in 23, 2663, and it looks
No, I
like
got it, I'm sorry.
it was spent for 24 was $4,000, and 2024 we spent $3,266.37, and there you are asking for an additional $1,000 to bring that total up to $5,000 requested for 2025.
I'm good with keeping that, 'cause we're gonna have that clerk there for more hours this year.
What's that?
We're gonna have their clerk at the office.
So what does that mean?
It don't mean they're gonna have more office
Office
supplies.
supplies.
She might go through more beds.
You're going through that many more pens.
Is there going to be enough toilet paper at the station?
If not, we know where to go.
Okay.
Yeah, but then we
So
have-
we're asking for an increase of $1,000 for office supplies. You guys good? You guys question? What? Give me some direction here.
It's subjective, you know.
The only reason I think that changed is because in the past, correct me if I'm wrong, Tiffany, I know you will, we used to come and get supplies from the town hall.
Right. And that
Remember that, correct? Last year, supervisor, we had that discussion in our meeting?
All right. So for that being said, good. Okay. So I'm okay with leaving that at 5,000.
It must have been a dark period for you.
No, it just is what it is. So license renewals used to include copier, and that's another large jump. So 23 we did 385, 24 290. We budgeted $500 in 2024, and the request is for $2,000. So do we know what these licensing renewals are actually costing us factually?
Well, now we have a new machine that we leased this year, and we have the old one as a backup. Because the problem is on the weekend, if one machine goes down with the toner, trying to get a toner on a Saturday afternoon at 1 o'clock, and you got to defend it with like a 100-page rap sheet, etc. Some of that is incurred cost. Also, we have licensing fees for the fingerprinting system, and we're also going to a new machine in 25. But each one of them, there's an annual contract you have to do with that or licensing.
Okay, so the number 2,000, that's $1,500 increase.
Probably too much.
Well, could we do the same process for you here?
We're on licensing renewals.
Yeah, we're on the second row. Last year was request is 500. We expended 290, and the request is for 2,000. What's your suggestion?
I was just rounding. So if we, why did it jump again?
We kept the other old copier. We kept that.
Dated one, yeah.
That dated one, yeah. We paid that back again. I don't care.
So let me ask you this: why did we buy a new one if we kept the old
The
one?
other one was jamming quite often.
Okay, so
years old.
can we do this for $1,000?
I can try to make anything work, Supervisor.
Can we do it for $500? Can we do it for $1,000? I'll make a motion. We lower that 2,000 to 1,000.
I'll second it.
Got a motion with a second. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? So carried. The DARE supplies. Again, we did not purchase them. We didn't even have a budget for 2024. And we have no expense, and now we're requesting $2,000.
Well, back in the past, there always used to be a line item for that. They took it out, and then Chief Ryan was funding that in different ways. And the bank over in Walden used to fund quite a bit of that with Detective Wiley. He used to give them quite a bit of money. They stopped being so generous with the amount and has cut that down a lot the last, I believe, 2 years, maybe 3.
2.
I've spoken to you, and I've scraped money out of other line items to purchase
At a drug seizure.
drug seizure money, which really shouldn't but it was only, $800-900 at a pop. I spoke to a very close friend of mine in the district attorney's office that said for that amount we can justify it if it comes to it. But he says I don't suggest strongly keep doing that. So this year we tried to put it in there to be supplies for him to use in the 3 schools in the district, not in Leptondale and in Plattekill Elementary for the DARE program.
So our DARE program covers Ostrander, or the town of Newburgh does that?
Ostrander is
Town of Shawano is Ostrander.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Leptondale.
That's town of Newburgh.
But
They on the DARE.
We also get involved with that?
Yeah.
We do it. They have been since I've been here.
We go to the graduations every year. So.
Yeah, actually, I do remember that.
Yeah, you were there.
Yeah.
You were so one year.
So,
And that's for DARE supplies.
all right, so
I mean, it may be a
you said
little high.
3 schools, we only do the 2.
So I'm thinking of the
Leptondale and
So, again, it's a program I really feel strongly about, but the reality is obviously we're trying to save dollars. Is that something that we can do for $1,000?
again, I will make sure Detective Riley is on point and tries to stretches the equipment that he has.
I'm like,
I think we use a lot of that equipment this year too. Correct me if I'm wrong. I'm usually not, but correct me.
Let's try.
I believe we used a lot of that this year to assist at the Plattekill Day, and we had a lot of response from the parents and the kids at Marion. They worked on very hard to get all the people there. The kids really enjoyed the stuff that they did get.
so look, I'll even compromise with that. What if we cut that by $500? We bring it to 15. That's more in line.
That's more than enough, Supervisor.
Only 23, and I think that's fair. So I'll make a motion. We take the 2,000 to 1,500.
Second.
We got a second. All in favor? Aye. Car wash. Okay. Car wash, and we had budgeted $1,200 for it. Year to date is $2,100. Now, why the increase in the $2,100 from the $1,200?
extra new cars.
Every car in the fleet has a sticker on it now. Can go as many times as they want.
Per month.
So, but he did give us a discounted price, which it really will pay off in the winter months. I feel.
Yes.
So
Where do we
much.
Bubble Bar?
Yeah, and the car wash, I mean, they do provide free vacuum. And the fleet, I think, is
We're sorry to ask.
good right now.
Yes, that's right. But the other thing, that bubble wash barn, they also do biometric things. So if you had a prisoner in the back that had blood, and during COVID, these guys would also
Is
go
that part of the plan for that?
What's that?
The clean biometric.
That's off we have just services for like basic plus like 0.5, but
Yeah.
they'll do things like that because they have the town of Newburgh has that contract, so they have equipment there. So to keep our business with them, they kind of give this as a courtesy. So we're getting more for our money.
No, you justified that. I'm okay with that, gentlemen.
Good.
I agree. Okay, and the boots. I like the boots line.
No, boots is cost only because it's not an even year.
Yep.
Our contracts is every even year.
Understood. It's at 0. We can take that. Training classes. Training classes, and it looks like $1,000. What are these training classes for? We only spent $613.10. 23, we only spent $866, and we're asking for $4,000. What is this?
Okay. For example, this week, now I've taken over records, with the town and the specialized training I need to get that pertains to law enforcement. That's one of the specialized trainings. And those courses, unfortunately, are not cheap. They're $800 sometimes, there's $500. Secondly, with all the new state protocols and policies to get them underwritten, instead of spending $5,000 in purchasing a lexical thing where we have pre-made policies that are underwritten by lawyers, we've conferred with the sheriff's office, and there's a Dago law firm They offer a training online for supervisors and also for underwriting policies, and that's a couple $100 a year. It's a subscription, and that's what the sheriff's office used. They dropped Lexipol. They gave us a demonstration up there, so that's one of the other training things. That's a specialty. That line was written as a specialty item.
All right, so when I'm looking at this, 2023 is 866. 2024 we spent 613. The request is for 4,000, and we did budget the $1,000, so it was there to utilize it. Could you do this for 1,500?
We're, like right now, we're sending a couple guys away to background investigations, how to properly do them.
And this
once
is what you
again,
use this for.
yeah, and that's part of the stuff. So anytime there's any type of training that's pretty much mandated, because they're gonna, when you do something, the state always wants to know, what are we basing it off of? Are we basing it off state police standards? Are we basing it off FBI standards? What are they doing to train their personnel that are doing backgrounds? So, like I said, we're just, that course is what, $450 each?
It's
for the background?
Yeah, it's $450 per man. And the other thing too, in that area, here's a lot of liability. When we're doing these background checks, the laws are continuously changing. We had an incident where a candidate got offended, by some of the questions we were asking, some of the things we wanted to see that are common practice. That candidate was not aware that we're doing things to a higher standard since Chief Lopez took over. So, to be on the safe side, we want to train these guys to, like the federal standard, make sure that any discrimination laws are adhered to. So those trainings are paramount to not getting sued.
So how about we double that to 2,000?
Can I raise you?
Do the best.
Can I raise you for 500 more?
Okay, so I'll make a motion. We change that line from 4,000 to 2,000. Got a motion on the floor.
I'll second that motion.
We have a second. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? So carried. Evidence bags, $2,500. We had never had that line before.
It's not just evidence bags. That's comprehensive. That's boxes for guns that you have to put them in for
Test kits, you got test kits in there?
Yeah, narcotics test kit.
Evidence storage, so to speak, bags.
And that's another school. You have to, for a NIC test, if you're testing drugs, you have to be certified to do that test. Now, obviously, that's a preliminary exam. Then the drugs, in case, would go to the state lab. Once the state lab verifies it, they give a form that's sealed with their seal, and that can then be presented at court. And a lot of times, that request is done through the district attorney's office to proceed with the case. So it's almost like we got to do it.
Understood. Can we do that for $1,250?
I think we can manage.
I'll make a motion that we change that $2,500 to $1,250.
Second.
The second on the floor, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? So carried. And flash drives. The flash drives go back with what you were talking about with camera discovery and the cameras and everything else. So again, we've never had this line before, and I think $4,800 is pretty ambitious. And I can understand that request. The $4,800 just seems like a lot of money to me.
What does each one cost roughly?
Depending on the size of it, could be 30, 35. If you buy them in a government bulk order, it depends. But also, it's not just for evidence. It's also now we're getting FOIL requests. So we're trying to work out a system. We haven't figured out a number yet where if someone requests hours of video from the station or the future body cameras or whatever, we're going to have the ability to fulfill that.
We just got it for Liberty Farms, didn't we?
Yeah, I have a 10-hour FOIL request, a 10-year FOIL request. That's like a week.
How much overtime do we have?
All right, so under the flash
I don't want to be paid in euros.
Under the flash drives, we've never had this before, and I'm going to ask. I'm just going to throw a number out there: $1,500
For flash drives?
For flash drives. Yeah.
You got to do this or toe.
We'll make whatever we can.
Yeah.
I think you got to dip your toe in and see what it's going to end up costing.
Yep. So I'm going to make a motion that we change that $4,800 to $1,500.
I'll second it.
And a motion on the floor with a second. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So carried. Canine supplies. Right now, we do not have a canine.
We just retired him. The district attorney's office actually funded our canine that I was using up at Urgent. They provided the dog, which was
$4,500 they got from the district attorney's office out of their drug seizure account. And they purchased the dog.
and then I worked it out with the sheriff's department as primary utilizing in an undercover capacity with the Urgent Squad. They paid for the vet and they paid for the food. The district attorney provided us not only with the dog, they provided us with the carrier that we can install in any car, and all the equipment, the harness, the leashes, the bowls.
So
we like to try to, if we can get a donated dog, we can always just slap that in the back of a car. And the only thing that we budgeted for is food and vet. Obviously, we don't have a candidate right now for it because I'm not going to give it to a new kid that's going to leave in a year. So that's why we're looking for a veteran officer to, that we know is not going to go anywhere.
So I respect that, and I like that idea. I just don't know that we're ready to take on a canine for the town of Plattekill, specifically just for the town of Plattekill. I admire, and very much so, what you did with the Urgent Task Force. I think that made all the sense in the world to you.
We have the last seizure that was done was my case. Through Urgent, and that was proven at the last Urgent meeting. That was over $760,000 confiscation between drugs and money. Also, my dog was passive alert, which means we're not, if and when we ever go back to canine, it would be a lab, which is good for not only narcotics, it can be cross-trained into tracking. Eventually we get a lost kid, especially with all the woods that we have here. There's also money coming back, because if we stop a car and we get money, it now stays with the town. So there's benefits to it. Once again, we're not looking for a criminal apprehension dog. We're just looking for a narcotics dog with a tracking background. It's just something that, in the future that, we have the equipment already. The dog that we would get would obviously be through a donation, through a kennel. A lot of times, like my dog actually was a great dog, high intensity. Obviously, if I brought him in here, he'd search this whole building in a minute. He's just hyperactive, so he didn't quite make it as a CNI dog because he'd be running everybody into poles and everything. But he did make a good sniffer, and it made a great drug dog.
So that being said,
good PR thing too to bring to the library.
Understood.
Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts, they love that stuff.
Understood. I myself, I had looked at this quite a bit and tried to develop an idea in my mind. And again, the board is going to give their opinion as well. I like the idea, but I just don't think it's now.
Yeah.
And when I say I don't think it's now, I don't think it's something that we shouldn't look into for the future. But I don't think we're ready for this, and I don't think that we can, quite honestly, afford to do this.
And just just looking into the future, mind you, when we pick a candidate, that dog goes to the home of the candidate.
Yes.
So that saves us in boarding, kennel fees. You know what I mean? And like I said, the only cost would be the vet and the food.
And it's a unique situation. Alluding back to what we talked about earlier, we could find the absolute perfect candidate. We can find the absolute perfect home, and we could be into this for 4 months, 7 months, a year, and 6 months, and that candidate could leave, and that dog would go with them. That dog is basically, correct me if I'm wrong, it's basically trained for the individual that's going to handle that dog.
I've been
Different type of dog.
there's a different type of dog. I've been in canine. I started my canine career in 1981. My first school, Washington, D.C. Metro Police, 16-week school. I've now been a handler and trainer for 6 dogs. that dog could be cross-trained to another handler, especially
good to know.
especially a passive dog.
Yes.
I mean, especially a lab. My lab will go with anybody. And we don't have to worry about, criminal apprehension, people getting bit, accidentally bit. And they're very good, just very good. So as far as liability, I don't really think that we need a criminal apprehension dog, but I will also bring to the attention of the board, if we do have a lost person, senior citizen, a kid, it's depending on where that dog's coming from. The dog can be up in Ellenville, could be up in Saugerties. If there's one working, we go to state police, we go to the sheriff's department. Right now, that's the only thing that we have. So just,
We also have the availability with the Department of Corrections. Those dogs are actually owned by the state police.
yes, and I've worked with the Department of Corrections. They're very, there's one guy that I can't think of his name. I think he was related somehow to Jen. He was a corrections guy. He worked the dog. Anyway, he was able to.
Oh my God, you know who he
You know what we're talking about, right? Great guy. We were able to get facilities.
for this. I mean, he ran the state, but he
Yeah,
ran this area.
yeah. But he's all over the state. That's just it. So we request a guy from the state. God only knows where he's coming from.
Yeah. So, this is just my suggestion. My suggestion is that we work on something, we put something, a plan together for the future. But this line here, just because of the cost and where we are in today's day and age, I would like to even remove the $6,500.
Yeah, that's
What do you
unbelievable.
guys think?
Totally, it would be nice to have something minimum there. So we have the line, so if something comes up.
Well, the
we could
line
do
can
it.
remain, but the thing is, keep in mind, if we don't utilize that line in 2025, we've taken the money from the taxpayers basically without a reason. So what I'm saying is, if we develop a plan and we look forward and we budget this and we know that we're going after something like this for 2026, I like the idea of the passive dog. I wouldn't want a dog with,
And once again, there's,
Shepherds.
yeah.
for the individual, that's a selection process. I'm qualified. The deputy chief is a prior canine handler. Sergeant Vass is a prior canine handler, but they have unique responsibilities. So, I can handle a dog.
There's a lot of additional good training that goes along with it.
Yeah, it's just that we don't have the right suitable candidate right now.
What do you feel, Steve?
I think it's a great idea. We just got to come up with a plan. Kind of like when we were doing the AEDs and the vests, we got to
Good plan.
make a plan.
Yeah.
I like
To look
the
out for 2026.
I like the lab idea. Plus, you could bring that around kids and do the park day. Integrate
It's also-
air stuff. I mean,
Even if
it's-
he gets called to say Gardner,
yeah.
and the dog does a seizure or whatever, now we're entitled to whatever the dog seizes, a portion of. So there's a lot of good benefits to it.
Yeah.
But it's something to look into in 2026. I did 2 dogs, so I'm definitely a.
Before this dog, I had a black lab named Bosco. Our guys had a car stop on South Ohioville Road with female Janae,
Yep.
and I recovered drugs and a gun.
Yeah.
So, and I'm talking about something that was secreted in that car that the average eye would not have found. The olfactory on the dogs, it's amazing, and they've done studies. They can't come up with quite a number how accurate it is, but like I said,
They're amazing, I would say.
yeah.
So I'm going to make a motion that at this time, just because we're going to look into it for 2026, that we leave the line canine supplies, but we remove the $6,500.
I'll second that.
Okay, we got a motion on the floor, the second, to remove that $6,500 for the canine, but leave that line in the budget. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? So carried. Taser lease. What is this?
Starting at the end of this month, the current models that we have, the X26 from Axon, they're going to be out of service. If you send them back for repair, it's going to be stamped for training use only. We lose the $15 million liability insurance that we get with it. So all the agencies throughout the United States are all transitioning to this new Model 7. The $7,500 lease, it gives you, I think it's 11 units, plus the training, plus the taser cartridges. It's thousands less than purchasing them outright. And then with purchasing them, you lose the ability to trade them in. If you own it, it's like a used car.
How long is that lease for?
That's per year.
So it'll be a recurring charge for 11 tasers.
No,
No, we don't need 11.
It's the package we were quoted was just they have minimum and maximum, so that was just at 11. So they're not very keen on negotiating until you're ready to purchase them.
So let me ask you this: when, like you're saying, 11, what are we going to do? They're going to be issued at the start of shift.
Yes, they sign them out just like their radios.
They're not going to be part of their equipment. They're going to be issued.
It's going to be issued.
And not only that, they come in line with the force continuum. You know, you get a guy with a knife, try to tase him before you shoot him, unless the threat is imminent. So once again, liability. So because that's going to be asked, did you have a taser? Did you have the capability of the taser before you use lethal force? Same force continuum, same thing with the beanbag. You know, we don't have to shoot them. We'll have less lethal there.
And if they have to be sent back to service when you're leasing them, they're going to cover it, like a warranty.
Yeah.
If you have an incident where it's questionable or there's some investigation concern and it gets seized, you have a unit to replace it, because
Now,
that happens frequently too.
Does this come with a liability insurance included?
Yes, it
Yes,
does.
it's
$15 million.
It helps the liability again.
What was your thought process?
Good attorneys are attached to $15 million liability policies.
So, what's your thoughts?
I'm good with 75.
It's again, it's kind of falls back to the vests and the AED and the equipment and ammo and stuff for me. I feel like it's necessary.
Well, this is the only time where I would say leasing is better than buying.
Okay. The ones that we have right now currently, what's the anticipation to do with those?
Junk.
Yeah, they do. Well, the thing is,
like they do to us.
really, at the end of the month, once the insurance is gone, I prefer not to even use them. So we're trying to address that.
Forget about it.
Yeah, it's just far too much.
All right, so we're going to leave it at the 7,500. Medical supplies. That again, that's something it looks like we haven't funded nor purchased.
Stop.
Medical supplies. What are the medical supplies?
Well, back in the day, we were very lucky that all 3 fire departments in the town used to fulfill our medical bags and stuff with when we were running low on stuff. Again, since their budgets and stuff, everything's changed. The non-rebreather masks, which are you have different sizes for that we have to get. All medical supplies that we fill these bags. And again, thanks to Kelly Nelson, she went through these bags and got them up to speed. And they're correct, but to keep everything going and replace things as we use them.
Yeah, that's also Narcan. We've been fortunate in the past to maybe source them from different EMS places or volunteer when we can get them. But that's just being generous.
So we get those through Oracle.
We can sometimes.
We have a whole thing of it out here.
Yeah, it depends.
But they have expiration dates on them too.
I think they go around and change them out for you, though.
Yeah, they do.
Oracle, that's why I asked you, because I know Oracle's doing a really great
Well,
job.
we just got a big
for our bags.
There's literally a big box. We're good right now, sitting next to the WG stuff right there. But
But this is all medical supplies, and I'm sure that you're filling your kits and whatever with those medical supplies. So the $2,600 is where did how did you come up with $2,600, and can that be dropped back at all? That's my question.
well, that also includes like latex gloves, like wearing those throughout the year. Those aren't just used for medical things too. The majority of it is literally like what it says, like the non-breathers. Very few of us. In the past, there were more EMTs. I'm literally the only EMT left in the agency, right? So in the past, I would go through a lot more equipment, the other EMTs, etc. But like I said, times, days nowadays, the volunteer firefighters became cops over here, and now we have to source everything ourselves from Amazon medical supply stuff.
And we do have an applicant that just applied today that's an EMT. So, you know what I'm saying?
Do you have any supplies?
We're sufficient right now because Kelly went through and got rid of a lot of expired stuff and set the bags off so they're all kind of like the same.
And they come in and out of the station. They can't be left in cars, only because the cold weather's coming. If the AEDs are in there, the battery life on those just goes to nothing.
Yep. So what's your opinions there, gentlemen?
I don't know.
And also remember, we're normally first on the scene. So the guys run with their bags in there and do what they got to do.
Some of those costs too are O2 regulators. For whatever reason, the ones that are being built nowadays, they're just substandard compared to like ones from 20, 30 years ago. And they cost $250, $300, depending, you know.
So we have canisters on there of O2?
Oh, yeah, every bag has an O2 bag. O2, yes.
Probably gotta leave it.
This is just my opinion. I don't want to take away from you guys, but food for thought. We are hurting in the EMS field all over the place.
Oh.
So having something like this to me is like kind of paramount.
Yeah.
So I just want to, like I said, you know, in this day and age, we have to look at the numbers, and I appreciate the fact that you guys do that. You know, that's your mantra, to protect and serve, and as well as you do that. So I appreciate that. All right, so I'm going to recommend that we leave it there.
Yes.
Be on that 21.
Site testing.
26.
2,600 is what you had.
Yep.
Next line is site testing. Again, we didn't have that in 23, 24, and we're requesting $4,500.
It became mandatory through Division of Criminal Justice Services in September of 2021 that anybody hired from that date on is required to take a psych test. For whatever reason, COVID, etc., maybe it was glazed over, but it's you cannot get hired without passing the psych test now.
So that being said,
The average cost is
yeah.
We gotta send them to a doctor?
So why have we not shown that as a year-to-date cost for 24 or 23?
I didn't have any problem in the prior years, so I'd have to direct that question to.
I don't know where Lori took it out of when we did it, because we've had probably 3 of them that came out. That Dr. No, not
Dr. Fix.
Dr. Fix, yes. That's not Dr. Fix. We'll fix you.
So since 21, though, we've probably had 15, 20 employees.
It's only, it depends on when they were hired.
we got 5 coming in.
Or if there were there were cops prior to the date of 2021. You didn't need it. If they were hired and they weren't cops after 2021, then it would have to require them to, like all these new students that are coming to our cops, every one of them's got to be tested, drug and psych.
So drug, I can understand the psych, they're already going through the academy.
Doesn't matter.
They don't because the academy's not their employer. The way Ulster County runs, and
Makes
same in
sense.
Orange County,
Makes sense.
it falls on the agency. Again, that's something in PDA negotiations. If we feel like we could put on them if they want to take it, because it's hard for the town to pay $400. They may fail it, and it's just like we're out money. So maybe that's another conversation.
Change
Save
their money,
money.
we're out money. So
We already make them pay
You should be
$120 or $125 to just get their fingerprints done. We don't foot that bill.
Yeah.
We try to make them, listen, you want a job here? You got to step up to the plate and pay.
Yeah.
But then again, they get reimbursed if they stay that year.
And here's the catch. I mean, they won't accept them in the phase 2 unless they're sworn in. Well, they're not going to get sworn in unless they pass the psych test.
So we're spending money on
We've
employees really
done
high on.
we've done none of this in the past.
Yes.
The psych test.
Yes, we have.
We have.
we've just never put it on the line and actually.
Right.
Oh, so we've
Now
done
she
this.
comes-
psych
It doesn't
test.
sound
We
like, in
just
all
have
fairness, it doesn't sound like every person that we hired
Has
has
to have.
received a psych test either. So
Well,
That's what I'm asking.
yeah.
the new ones have. But the older, for example, Sergeant Bass didn't have to go for one. Sergeant Arrested didn't have to go for one. We hired them. Again, it all depends on what date
Yeah,
they were
we-
cops or not cops were hired. But yes, 45.
So let me ask you this: is there any anticipation of doing this for less than the 4,500?
That's 11 people, basically. You're putting a psych evaluation on.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's roughly $210 per eval.
210 from Dr. Fix.
Yeah.
So
So that being said,
That's
cut it in half.
double.
20-some people.
20, I was going to say double.
Is that 210 accurate though? Is it because there's the session? Does he bill separately for like the initial evaluation with the written psych and then the actual? Okay. Great.
so would it be fair to cut this at 2,250?
I believe so. But again, if we for some reason they have to go over more, this is something that's contractual, we can't get out of it. They have to have tests.
So I'm going to make a motion that we lower that line on the site testing from $4,500 to $2,250.
Second.
Will the town council consider bringing that into negotiations with the union?
With the PBA.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Drug testing is at $4,000. Now that's the initial drug testing. We don't have any ongoing drug testing.
No.
There's no requirement, is there?
That figure. So it's I think it's $80+ per person. It's mandatory when they first come in, but then we have now a rolling random thing. Plus, some kinks have to be worked out with the PBA, the union. That's been in the PBA contract. I've been here since 2003, like going on 20 years. So, but there was never a line of money to actually go through the program. And with today's liability.
So now let me ask you this: have we ever put anybody into the program?
Besides the new hires, no.
So the new hires, would it be fair to say 5? And that's during their initial application process.
That's accurate.
So
That's
this
we're
is
just hiring
totally,
5.
this is totally new.
Yes.
New grounds, and we're anticipating $4,000. So again, is that something that we can cut that in half to $2,000?
The only thing I would add to that is, we're anticipating 5, but I'm anticipating losing 5. So then there's 5 more.
Understood.
This is what I mean.
So those tests.
This is going back to we invested
$60, $80.
We got to hedge our bets.
Right.
Did we reach out to somebody to contract with them and get ideas on what that's actually going to cost us?
No,
we haven't.
It's in place. The other thing too is I think the business, I forget, Emergency One, there's a flat annual fee that we have to pay them too. I don't know that off the top of my head.
That's Emergency One out here in two.
There's one in Kingston, there's one in New England. We have in several different locations. The idea being too, once you commit to that program, if you notify an officer, hey, your next shift or whatever, you got to send them out, and if it's up in Kingston, they're driving an hour by the time they sit around, so we're trying to keep concise costs with this too. We're lucky that the new employees, they have to do that on their own, but the existing ones, and they're operating our vehicles, driving at high speeds, etc.
Understood. So again, the drug testing at $4,000. What do you guys? I threw a number out there arbitrarily, $2,000, cutting that in half, but I'm willing to adjust that.
Again, I agree with you on the supervisor. $2,000 to start the program, see how it goes. It's contractual. It's something we have to do. If it does happen to go over that, we have to come back with the board and say, hey, we spoke about this at budget season. It was $4,000. We agreed on $2,000, but now we have 3 extra officers. We have to come up with the money one way or the other.
Well, it's not only that too. Can you say there's also random drug testing?
Yes.
And is there any number on that? 1 a year, 2 a year, or is it just?
No, that's something that's
random.
It's random.
Well, that could mean any time. Or,
Yes.
I'm just saying.
If somebody crashes a car, they go in for a drug test.
We don't have that in policy just yet, but that's something we negotiate with the
The fire district has that as
Yeah.
policy.
Especially if it's fatal,
Well, even
Or
if you
even
put a
less.
mailbox on a fire truck, we got to go for a drug test.
So I think 2,000 to start would be sufficient. It's something in the line. All
right, so-
and then we go back.
So I'm going to make a motion that we change that line under the drug testing from $4,000 to $2,000.
Nice.
And I'm also going to request that you guys look into a policy and procedure on how we're going to do that. ERPO legal, $10,000. That is another one that we have never funded before, and we have no expenditures onto it right now. And is it accurate for me to say that this goes with the cap court?
No, absolutely not.
What
It's a
is
separate
totally
division. So this goes back to extreme risk protection order, the red flag law, if you would.
Okay, yes.
Right. So we came up with that figure because Bill Wallens is our shared attorney with the town of Shangham. Bill would not do the ERPO proceedings, and the town of Shangham contracted another lawyer. Now, their costs in general per event is $5,000 because they're representing the town, the officers. It's not a criminal proceeding; it's a civil proceeding.
So why are we actually getting involved in civil proceedings?
Because ERPO is not a criminal law element. It's written under, it's the Second Amendment.
941.
It's under, if you have a person that is suffering from mental illness or a crisis or something, we may seize their weapon. If they had a suicidal attempt, they got 5 guns, we hold them. And then...
Wait, what?
Yes.
If they have a suicide
If they have like
or have 5 guns?
No, I said if they have... I said 5 guns, where they have 4, you're good to go. This is something where we're seizing weapons. Could be AR-15s, handguns, etc. Or if they have dementia and they walk down the road. So we're allowed under law, under extreme risk protection order, to seize the weapons, and then we have to submit a civil court proceeding, which is the extreme risk protection order, which we have to go to the Supreme Court and say, hey, Your Honor, this person did A, B, and C. We're asking that we seize them for the judge will let you go for 2 years. But they have to have their rights. They have to have their chance and day in court.
Sure.
So that attorney, and I'm basing that figure on town of Charlotte, since there's a lot of parallel costs. Is $5,000 per incident. We've been fortunate that I was able to turn this year over a bunch of them over to the sheriff's office. In the beginning, they let us use the county attorney for one thing, and they did a 180, and they said, no, you're not a county agency. You have to handle it yourself. So in Sham, I've done 8 already for this year, 2024, and they're still going. Plattekill, I've been able to divert them to the sheriff's office and the state police in some instances. However, as recently as of last Thursday, they pushed back really hard, and they weren't going to do it. And if he didn't have the relationship that he's got with Sheriff Figueroa and some other people, it would have been on us, and we would have been, trying to get an attorney from you guys. So, Deputy Chief thought it's cautionary. We'd have at least 2 in there in the pot just in case, and then we could maybe resolve things with getting a contract with another attorney outside of Rollins.
Some of it's going to need some serious discussion.
Yeah.
I can tell you that. But I don't want to go in there shorthanded and have nothing in there, and then we're hammering you guys for reserve posts.
So one instance is $5,000.
That's based on
Potentially $5,000.
Potential, yes. So that's why I said if we did 10, maybe you might that goes over maybe
How many have
3.
you sent over to Shawana?
No, I've done. I've taken 8, but here I've quadrupled all of our salaries by sending it
somewhere else.
I've saved you a lot of money by.
Something like that.
I'm trying, but I'm running out of room.
We do a lot of negotiations.
I just see. We got to see. Yeah.
Again, that's something that it's an unavoidable no matter what happens. If it happens, it happens. We can't avoid that. So you got to put something in there is what my original thought was.
So I agree with you with the 5. What do you folks think?
I'm agreeing.
All right. So go ahead, Steve. You want to put that in a motion?
I'll make a motion to reduce the ERPO legal line from 10,000 to 5,000.
5,000. I'll second that. All in favor? Aye. Okay, let's do the math here.
I hope I've been keeping track along the way.
Should be
What do
like
you guys feel?
33,700.
That's on the entire page you have?
That's not just that we're working
That's
over.
the last
You want to add it to the other part?
That's it. I got 120, 327 for all of
128, 327.
Yes. 128327.
That's for both pages.
That's for
Yep.
point 4 is correct. And then if you add up,
138.
Totals 919,631.
sorry, hang on a second. It's 128
128.
327.
327.
Correct.
I forgot the point 28, sorry.
That is
Yes, left that
for-
off.
The point 4 is for both pages.
That is correct. 919 631.28. I got it.
Yep, 919,631.28.
Correct.
That's Peter. 128327.
Oh. No, it's on my thing. I just forgot tomorrow was the day. I'm sorry. Say that again. Total was 919,631.28.
Yep.
919
631.
631 28. So 919631, and that is the total.
That's the total. That's a reduction of 271, 375, 72 from the proposed.
All right, you guys got this. $371,375. Alrighty. It appears to be that is it, correct?
Vehicles.
How does the vehicles fall? How does she go?
What is that?
Where does the vehicles fall? We didn't speak anything about vehicles.
Was the request on here?
No.
We didn't see it in this budget.
There was an original, when we sat down with Tiffany, she said it falls under a different line, a lease line or something. Does that make sense?
Maybe back in Iowa.
Wouldn't be highway, no.
Is she still here, or is she?
So there's a payment that's got to be due, I believe.
Yeah, there's a payment that has to be due,
And we're making one payment, we're giving one payment.
That was under debt services.
It's under a different line, she told
We
me.
touched on that.
Yes. Is she still here or no?
In the ladies' room.
Okay, when she comes back, I do have, because there's other things that are in your budget. The insurance, workman's comp, I believe, is in there. That's covered under the, my budget, and I think there's a couple.
And the card thing, is it?
Yes, that's
She's
under,
right,
yes,
that's okay.
yeah, you're right. You're correct. So that total request really is not the entire.
No, that's the one I'm asking.
Yep.
Should be, there's a payment I do, one payment due.
One payment is due, and then you are
We are
anticipating purchasing. Here she comes.
Or getting a payment for another car.
So, very first thing, the car. Where is the car that they requested?
So the car is it 9785?
That's debt services, correct? 9785?
I told you she had to go somewhere else. We spoke about that. And I think it's one payment due,
You have two payments.
right, but we're making one payment.
No, that's the payment you owe us.
Because you made it last year, or this year.
So you have two payments going in.
There it is. 9785.6.
So there's two. I think there's interest on that too as well. So there's an interest line for the cars, and then there's the actual car payments.
Yeah.
Okay, so it looks like.
I didn't have that paper. Oh,
I'll
So
grab
the interest, you're right.
it.
So it is 9785.6, 0.7, and 0.8. So under 0.4 contractual, it looks like police vehicles in the first line is the payments year to date for 2024 was 49,565.61. Where'd she go?
She went to grab paperwork.
Is that, I'm not sure if that, I think that was 2 payments. 2 different payments.
It is, I believe you're correct. I'm sure it's
I think one was finishing up and then the other one had 2.
Yeah.
Is that correct? We finished
So
up one payment?
yeah, so one has 2 more payments, so a 25 and a 26, and then one is we're finishing it out and then buying it for $1.
buyout, all right.
Okay, so under that 24 contractual, under debt services, originally the proposed was for 34,447.
So that's only on the principal, not the interest,
That was the payment,
for
correct?
2 payments. Yeah.
Okay. So the next one was the interest. That was added at 44,8424. The next one is new vehicle estimate,
Yeah.
and the first payment was $21,000, correct?
But we took that out.
Yes. So we are, I think we're going to fund that another way. And I have to look just to make sure that we have the money for that.
Okay.
And we will fund that a different way. So the other thing was the insurance. What was that? I don't remember if it was compensation insurance that fell under my budget. That was for the PD.
Well, all the insurance for the vehicles. I mean,
All of it. But it was quite a hefty amount, if I'm not mistaken. And I don't even remember what number it was under, but I do know I wanted to mention.
it's a combined. I can get a breakdown of what the insurance on the vehicles cost.
Yeah.
That's a total combined for the entire town for all the vehicles, the
Supervisor.
buildings.
So,
You're saying another way, would it be fair to say if I can get a hold of the guy that I do all this business with down there, and I can get a leftover with a lot better price, could I tell him at least put a hold on it for 30 days to decide on the car?
if you can give me
A figure.
3 days or 4 days, give me a figure. And give me 3 days or 4 days to.
Okay, because
Yeah.
usually at the end of the year, if I catch him early enough, October's I can have him hold a
Today is
I can hold a leftover. He'll find me a leftover hopefully, which saves us $6,000-7,000.
Yeah. If you can call me either tomorrow afternoon or the next day, let me know.
I'll get in touch with him as soon as possible and go from there. It's the same company that we deal with all the time, right?
Nielsen.
Nielsen, so Brooks Buxton. He's been good to us, and he called me, and I said, "Well, we didn't have our budget meeting yet." So I said, "Give me a
Couple of weeks, yeah.
So I said, well, if I can get it, he puts it on hold for me. And that way we're guaranteed that price, I can lock it in and you can save. I'll get a 22, 23 mile, maybe 24. We don't care, the insurance, or the warranty is still the same. That's the bottom
Still a new
line.
vehicle, right?
Right.
All right. So we're still good with that then. I will get those breakdowns on those numbers. I just can't remember what those numbers were.
Yeah,
It
off
was
the top of my
quite a bit.
head. Yeah.
When we look at it, we're looking at the budget. We're now looking at all the moving parts, and that's what I want to make sure that everybody understands. There's a lot of moving
I
parts
totally
in
understand.
every one of these budgets, and to go through them just make you crazy.
I totally understand.
All right, so we are done for this evening, I believe.
Thank you.
I will make a
All you
motion
gentlemen.
to adjourn unless there's any other questions, comments.
I'll second your motion.
So, a motion on the floor to adjourn. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? So carried. Thank you very much. Thank you. I know what this is.
What's the name?
Dealing with unknowns.